its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, happy Friday Eve to you, my little soon-to-be absentee buddy.
Oh, come on, Crute. Happy Friday Eve to you as well. Fancy Brian on the board. Always a pleasure. Our fair audience, thank you once again. Joining us, lots of topics to get to today.
And a fine guest joining us in the 3 o'clock Central Time hour, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. He's a crowd favorite, Dom. And also, this headline perhaps will inspire this big audience. I hope it's a big audience. But here's the big headline, Dom. Joe Biden has made a deal for a deal.
It's like a plan for a plan.
Similar to a plan for a plan. There's a bipartisan deal. But here's my point. It's either no deal or it's a bad deal. So you got something to girl on there?
You know, come on, man.
It's no deal or a bad deal. There's current deal being offered.
The current deal being offered. 10 senators walked in the door. 5 Republicans have given Biden their word. They are down for this infrastructure deal that they have negotiated, right?
Well, let me give you one reason why it's a bad deal. Because it emboldens the centrist. It emboldens the Kristen Cinemas and the Joe Mansions. And they think, oh, no, we're on the right track here. Filibuster, no, let's keep it in place. So they think they've accomplished something, but you only get one bite at the apple.
What do you mean by that?
The centrist accomplishing something?
No, what do you mean? No, what do you mean by you only get one bite at the apple?
Well, you've only got one golden ticket. You've only got one crack at reconciliation. So this deal, this very public, we made a big deal, a bipartisan deal. And, you know, the concept of making a bipartisan deal, I'm not opposed. That's the way it used to work, you know, in kindler, gentler times. Tom,
I'm not clear those times really ever existed. No, I keep hearing about it.
There used to be deals. There are many fewer deals, at least of the bipartisan sort, you know, and the deal by its nature is a compromise, a watered down version of your more favorite beer.
If everybody's disappointed at the end of the deal, then it's a good deal.
That is what we hear. But, you know, while Joe Biden's going to come out and claim the art of the deal.
The art of the deal.
He's got to be very careful that it could have a Trump-like ending and that this is no deal yet. You've only got 5 Republicans. You need 10 Republicans or you got to use up your golden ticket of reconciliation.
And why would you do that and in this particular deal when we don't have the budget yet?
Well, they say there's going to be parallel courses, sort of a dual track, Tom.
Parallel courses, huh?
That's what the White House is saying. That's what the Biden team's saying. That's what Joe Biden might say. We're going to save that sound to the 3 o'clock hour. Biden just finished talking recently, and he had some of the legislative leaders, the centrist, think the Susan Collins and the Mitt Romneys and the Kristen Cinemas and the Joe Mansions. And again, I have some issue with emboldening at least the Democratic centrists. But here's the problem. This ain't passing the Senate. You're not going to get this deal. You might get a future deal, but it ain't going to be this one. Because if you get this deal, and I'm just talking about on the right flank, Mitch McConnell's going to say, hell no. He's going to lock down his caucus.
There's already 5 defectors in his caucus. You think he's going to lock down the other 45?
Tom, the Democrats couldn't get a single Republican defector when Mitch McConnell put down his heel on SB 1, right? Senate Bill 1, the For the People Act. Mitch McConnell said, no, we're not going to federalize federal elections. And for that reason, I want the caucus to vote against it. And in uniformity, they did. They're good soldiers, Don. Republicans, when the boss says, here's how you're voting on this
that's
one.
very interesting then, Crudy, because apparently 5 of those Republican senators gave President Biden their word, and that was good enough for Biden to come out and announce this deal. So how do you think those 5 who have already made their positions known
leaves you 5 short.
all right, well, how do you think they will react if and when McConnell comes down and says, no, we're voting against this?
Sorry.
Do you think they jump on?
They're publicly going to claim, people voted their consciences and, this expenditure, not the right time, not the whatever. And you would think that even Republicans would want this victory, of course. Infrastructure. Who's against infrastructure investment? And this watered down version of our more favored bill is like mostly bridges and roads. The stuff we can agree on as infrastructure, although Joe Biden would expand that definition greatly, but he's not going to get the opportunity if he signs this bill into law. I mean, hell, Nancy Pelosi came out and said today, we're not even taking up the bipartisan plan until after we pass the budget through reconciliation. Because for the sake of it, this infrastructure deal, are you going to give a terrorist like Mitch McConnell the right to shut down the entire U.S. government? I mean, because if you're going to pass the budget with 60, oh my God, it's never going to happen. We're done governing. We're ceasing to exist as a nation. And Nancy Pelosi knows that. Or the cuts would be so extreme to Planned Parenthood and those sort of things that it would be so untenable to the rest. It would be a terrible deal.
So your position is on the infrastructure bill, although there's this deal being reported, 5 Republicans have announced that no way McConnell, he's going to lock down perhaps the other 45, right? So there's no way they can do this through regular business. The only way to pass, even with quote unquote 5 Republicans, to call it bipartisan, you still got to burn your reconciliation to get it through. The only way it makes any sense
golden ticket
is to get up to 60, pass it through a regular course of business, and then use that same reconciliation for the budget. But then you're saying that would give 2 victories for Biden, and McConnell will never allow for that.
Never. And why? I mean, honestly,
politically speaking,
the political creature that Mitch McConnell is, he didn't give a damn about infrastructure. He cares about power. And he's never going to give that sort of power to Biden, that power that comes with victory. Going into the midterm elections just a year out, Dom, hell no. It's one and you're done. And if you want to be bipartisan, if you want to make this centrist bipartisan claim, well, Mitch McConnell's going to say, fine. But then I'm going to hold the entire U.S. government hostage because you burned your golden ticket.
Why would you say claim bipartisan with only 5 Republicans and then have to burn the reconciliation anyway?
I would not take this.
I would not. Then
I would not be at the White House making
that. If you're going to do that anyway, you may as well load it up to what you originally wanted if you were going to already burn the reconciliation, right?
Yes.
Who cares if it's bipartisan or not?
You listened to my avocation on the prior show when we argued about this very point, Don. So we're at the same stage. They've just made a public pronouncement
of a deal for a deal.
They put the cart in front of the horse because they put the deal out in front of the actual deal, the must-pass deal, the broader budget deal. The larded up wish list of anything the Democrats still hope to pass through this legislative session and actually have become law, you only get one chance. And this is great. I mean, noble. Yeah, I admire the thought, sort of. But no,
I mean, that's how government works. I mean, I do appreciate the fact we have to go through the motions, yes. I'm glad Republicans and Democrats can sit down and agree on some things. But of course, yes, politics weaves in and out this entire situation. And everybody knows. And I have not seen a quote from Mitch McConnell on this issue yet today.
You know what, Tom? Everyone should know this deal for a deal. This is not the lead. We're burying the lead. The lead today, Rudy lost his law license.
Oh, no.
And when I was posting on these social media, encouraging you fine folks to come and join us on the Facebook at the Devil's Advocates Radio, stuff like that. I was, I put the fare of the show. Here's what we anticipate talking about today. And I couldn't remember how to spell Giuliani, not off the top of my head. So I just said, take it off because Rudy's sort of a one word, sort of a Cher, Madonna, Rudy. He's going down in infamy, this guy.
He is a one. Jesus. According to the New York Times, New York State Appellate Court temporarily suspended Giuliani's law license on the recommendation of a disciplinary committee after finding that he had sought to mislead judges, lawmakers, and the public as he helped shepherd Trump's legal challenges to the election results. For months, Giuliani, who served as Trump's lawyer, had argued without merit that the vote had been rife with fraud and that voting machines had been rigged. In its decision, the court said that Giuliani's actions represented a quote-unquote immediate threat. Immediate threat to the public, and that he had directly inflamed the tensions that led to the Capitol riot in January. The seriousness of respondents' uncontroverted misconduct cannot be overstated. This country is being torn apart by continued attacks on the legitimacy of the 2020 election and of our current president, Joseph R. Biden, the decision read.
I'm not an expert on the facts yet. I'm getting there.
So is Rudy going to claim this is cancel culture?
His
cancel
attorneys.
culture went to the Bar Association, and they took it to the New York Supreme Court. And this ruling has come down. Rudy's no longer an attorney. And does he still then have the right to preserve attorney-client relationships?
If you're no longer an attorney?
And one more thought here quickly. A guy that does the righty-whitey talk radio here in Madison, and of course, where you live as well in Milwaukee, he originates there from the heartless source. He's been spouting these very same lies, and technically, he is an attorney admitted at the bar here in the great state of Wisconsin, and he did give some pretty public testimony. And I don't mean on the radio, but, he gave testimony at a committee hearing at the state capitol here. So if you're looking for a project, somebody go and see if they can take after Dan's law license, maybe. Get his ass disbarred. He's got this cush radio job to fall back on. He'll be fine. Maybe you should stop propagating the big lie. Him and Rudy and Trump, devil's advocates. That's the lead. Rudy. He's just a pedestrian like us now.
Rudy.
I did what I came to do.
It's no big deal.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
This America.
The art of the
I did what I came to do.
She was 27 years old. She took the gun that my grandfather had given her for self-defense. She never got to see her son grow up to be anything. Because she had easy access to a gun, I've been robbed of that relationship.
63 Americans a day die by gun suicide. With safe gun storage, we can give our loved ones a second chance at life. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Here's that song again. Here's that song again. For the 100th time today, here's that song again. It's gonna be stuck in your head all day. Here's that song again. It will make you cray, cray.
You love your kids enough to watch that TV show a bajillion times. Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat for their age and size. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Scott Walker tweeting out from a La Quinta in a Rancho del Solio Ronald Reagan fashion shirt.
As a guy
online.
Who's wearing a Bernie Sanders shirt, how can you
Mine's
rip on
bootleg.
a guy for wearing a Ronald Reagan shirt?
Buddy, I got a Bernie bootleg on. This is cool on so many levels. You don't even know how cool I am.
I do not. If it could just be a little tighter.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines always open for our fair audience. Join us anytime at 844-967-2789.
Brian, I'm unfamiliar with the song. What's this one called?
It's called A Message to You, Rudy, by the Specials. Listen.
Oh, Rudy, poor guy.
Well, that sets the table nicely for what we're going to talk about next. Rudy Giuliani's incompetence and dishonesty exposed by suspension order. Here are 5 damning examples.
Ooh.
We can share. I'll share.
Okay.
Former Trump attorney. Is it because he is a former attorney?
or because Trump no
Trump
longer
attorney?
employs him, right?
You know, you got to be grammatically very accurate in this.
Grammatically. I'm not clear that's the proper word, but please go ahead.
You back off. Former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani on Thursday faced fresh humiliation. What's that feel like, Tom?
I have no idea.
When the Attorney Grievance Committee for the New York State Supreme Court's First Judicial Department suspended his law license. Specifically, the committee decided to put the former New York mayor's law license on ice after concluding that he had communicated demonstrably false and misleading statements to the courts, lawmakers, and the public at large in his capacity as lawyer for former President Donald J. Trump.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame, ain't it? The order suspending Giuliani's law license is filled to the brim with examples of rank incompetence and dishonesty that he employed in his failed quest to keep Trump in the White House. Below, Dom, and we're going to share them with the audience. Here are the 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 most egregious examples. Dom, why don't you go first?
Crudy, number 1. Rudy Giuliani tells the court that he's claiming voter fraud cost Trump the election, then admits later he's not claiming voter fraud. Giuliani responded in the affirmative when asked by a judge last year if he was alleging fraud, but then later backtracked when pressed by the court. So the amended complaint, does the amended complaint plead fraud with particularity, the judge asked? No, Your Honor, and it doesn't plead fraud. It pleads the plan or scheme that we lay out without characterizing it. The committee notes that Giuliani's initial fraud claim was made despite an amended complaint in which his very own client withdrew any fraud-related claim.
Number 2, Dominic, Giuliani defends lies about absentee ballots by saying he sincerely believed them at the time. If I'm a moron and I believe every lie, if I'm gullible, isn't that legal defense?
If I lie and believe it, isn't it true?
This man, you will never know what the truth is. He lies to fit the situation he's in.
The committee shows that Giuliani made multiple false claims about Pennsylvania recording more votes via absentee ballot than the total number of absentee ballots sent out before the election. You know, you remember that whopper? It was one of the earlier lies, Tom. They all add up to one big lie. Giuliani claimed that his multiple false claims about absentee ballots were an honest mistake. He's kind of dumb. He's a moron.
I'm an old man. I'm confused.
But the committee didn't buy this explanation. Giuliani does not deny that his factual statement that only 1.8 million mail-in ballots were required, were requested, was untrue. His defense is he did not make this misstatement knowingly. Respondent claims that he relied on some unidentified member of his team. That's my problem. Whenever I screw it up, it's the team.
Not a member of the team.
You got to take one for the team, Dom, who inadvertently took the information from a Pennsylvania website, which had the information mistakenly listed. There is simply no proof to support this explanation.
It isn't truth. Truth isn't truth.
Crudy, number 3, Giuliani caught blatantly lying about a dead boxer voting in Philadelphia. A committee showed Giuliani falsely claimed to have proof that dead people in Philly were voting in droves for Biden, including most notably the late boxer Joe Frazier, who died in 2011.
Smoking Joe Frazier?
A simple check of voter registration information, however, showed this claim to be utter nonsense. Quote, the public record submitted on this motion unequivocally shows that respondent's statement is false. Public records show that 15 Pennsylvania formally canceled Mr. Frazier's eligibility to vote on February 8th of 2012, 3 months after he died.
I'm not an expert on the facts yet. I'm getting there.
Number 4, Tom. Giuliani claimed Biden received over 60,000 votes from underage Americans in Georgia. The actual number was 0. That's just a computational error.
Yeah, I mean, I added like a few more zeros and a 6.
In a particularly damning example of Giuliani's reckless disregard for the truth, the commission shared how he concocted a statistic about underage voters out of nothing. At various times, this is a quote. At various times, respondents claimed that 65 or 66,000 or 165,000 underage voters illegally voted in Georgia in 2020. The Georgia office of the Secretary of State, Dom, as an aside, that's the Brad Raffensperger guy. They don't like him so much, at least not the Trumpsters, undertook an investigation of this claim. It compared the list of all the people who voted in Georgia to their full birthdays. The audit revealed that there were 0 underage voters in the 2020 election. And what's number 5, Dom?
Crudy, number 5 on Rudy Giuliani. He persisted in claiming that a few 100,000 undocumented immigrants voted for Biden in Arizona, even after being told there was no data to support that conclusion. He said, anywhere from 10 to 250,000 undocumented immigrants voted illegally. The committee writes, at the November 3rd hearing, when it was brought to the respondent's attention that no study to support the conclusions had been done, respondent persisted in making these false factual statements. In January of 21, respondent even admitted that he did not have the quote-unquote best sources to justify the number he was stating as fact. Nonetheless, respondent has failed to produce any sources, whether best or marginal, to support any of the figures he has presented to the public with authority.
60% of the time, Rudy's right every time. More Devil's Advocates. Come on back with us, 844-967-2789, or dial up and join the program.
I gotta tell you, it's just occurred to me what the student body has been chanting for the last 2 or 3 minutes. It's the name Rudy.
What has happened to us? What has happened to us?
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
My name is Rocker, and this is my vodka. Rocker Vodka is distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Find Rocker Vodka at Woodman's, Festival Foods, Trixie's Liquor, Star Liquor, Steve's Liquor, Willie Street Co-op, Total Wine, Vic Pierce, Miller's Market, Cambridge Cooler. Find more at rockervodka.com. It's yummy. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Donahue with an AP News Minute. President Biden says he's optimistic over reaching an infrastructure deal. The president met with Senate Democrats and Republicans, and when they were done, he said, "We have a deal." The $953 billion deal doesn't have all the things the president wanted.
That's what it means to compromise. And it reflects something important. It reflects consensus. The heart of democracy requires consensus.
Maine Republican Susan Collins says it's important to show the Senate can function.
Everyone contributed to what is the largest infrastructure package in history.
The president's message to people waiting for relief.
I got them $1.9 trillion relief so far. They're going to be getting checks in the mail that are consequential this week.
This could open the door to the president's more sweeping $4 trillion proposals later on. I'm Ed Donahue.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. A CGM can immediately reduce pain. It's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Plus, get free shipping, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. Call now to receive your new continuous glucose monitor at little or no out-of-pocket cost.
Paid for by U.S. Medical Supply.
Call 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638. Again, 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Wisconsin Assembly Speaker Robin Boss is blaming the expanded unemployment benefits for individuals who lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic as a reason to explain the increase in crime the city of Madison is experiencing. In an interview with 27 News, Boss said the expanded benefit is a disincentive for people to work, and it also means people get into mischief. Dane County is experiencing an unemployment rate of 3.2%, below the state of Wisconsin's unemployment rate and well below the national average. Without explaining why the proposal was necessary, the Wisconsin Joint Finance Committee unanimously approved a bill that would create a new legislative human resources office. Open records advocates are concerned confidentiality aspects written into the proposal would block public access to reports of misconduct if passed into law. You're listening to Devil Radio.
60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. At least we still got jobs, Dom. What's Rudy doing for money these days? Apparently, most of the legal work done for Donald Trump, pro bono.
Story of my life, man.
At least they couldn't claim that he was practicing law without a license, Dom.
Maybe he should stop practicing and actually do it. And if what you call he was doing, engaging in the practice of law over the last 12 months, I think he should have stopped a long time ago.
Dominic, sort of a complimentary story. I'm going to read the headline at The Guardian. Michigan Republicans, and this was a senatorial report in Michigan, find no voter fraud and say Trump claims ludicrous. And Donald Trump, this might shock you, Dom, but Donald Trump did not take that news
no
lying down. I've got the statement from the former. You want to hear some of it?
Sure. Well, hang on. Here. I got the New York Times.
Help me set the story up.
Yeah, let's just set it up here a little bit. New York Times.
I don't have the Times version. You go first.
A committee led by Michigan Republicans on Wednesday published an extraordinary debunking of voter fraud claims in the state, delivering a comprehensive rebuke to a litany of accusations about improprieties in the 2020 election and its aftermath. A 55-page report produced by a Michigan State Senate committee of 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat is a systematic rebuttal to an array of false claims about the election, from supporters to Trump. The authors focus overwhelmingly on Michigan, but they also expose lies perpetuated about the vote counting process in Georgia. The report is unsparing in its criticism of those who have promoted false theories about the election. It debunks claims from Trump allies, including Lindell, the guy from My Pillow, Giuliani, and Trump himself. And notably, Crudy, before you get to your piece, while the report eviscerates claims about election fraud, its authors also use the allegations to urge their legislative colleagues to change Michigan's voting laws to make absentee voting harder and limit the availability of drop boxes for absentee ballots, as Republicans have done in other swing states as they try to limit voting.
So I'm sorry, Dom. I don't know if I properly comprehended that. These 3 Republicans on the committee
and 1 Democrat,
they're still being anti-democratic, even though they admit they found 0 evidence of voter fraud and claims of such are ludicrous. I believe that was the quoted word they used in their report, Dom.
That is absolutely
But let's
correct.
change the laws anyways and make it harder to vote. So at least we know that they're true Republicans, right? You know, their true color shining through.
Don't tell that to Trump.
Don't tell that to Trump, because I got an email missive from the former president, Tom, because he can't tweet at me anymore. And, you know, I don't read them all. In fact, I found one from March where he was very harsh on Mitch McConnell. I hadn't read that one. I'm like, man, this is terrible. And then I'm like, oh, this is old news. Let's see what the new news is. Well, here's the newest. Michigan State Senators Mike Shirkley and Ed McBroom are doing everything possible to stop voter audits in order to hide the truth about the November 3rd. The Senate investigation, now he used quotes here, of the election is a cover-up and a method of getting out of a forensic audit for the examination of the presidential contest. Oh, Trump's bemoaned going through audit after audit, Tom. You can understand why they might want to avoid that sort of scrutiny, right?
You know, for a government that doesn't work at all, they're certainly diabolical and really well done with as far as committing fraud to go and continue their. Wait, none of it makes sense.
Okay.
I continue with the email from the former president. He begins paragraph 2 with corrupt, and then in parentheticals question mark. Like, you know, if I just throw a question mark in there, that's like an allegedly, like,
right,
you're corrupt,
question mark
parentheticals.
Just asking questions.
Corrupt question mark politicians falsely claim that there was no voter fraud in Michigan. And then more parentheticals here. Has anyone looked at what is considered the most corrupt election city in the U.S.? And then all caps, Detroit. And then another question mark.
Exclamation point.
And then a however, Dom. I mean, this guy's splicing some run-ons together. However, they admit to, and more quotations, problems with the numbers that rigged 7,048 votes to illegally give a very conservative county to Joe Biden, which raised big signals only to then find out it was actually President Trump that won the county by 3,788 votes, not Biden. Now, that was a computational error that was corrected on election night. Is it not,
and the New York Times articulates this as one of the issues that were debunked by this majority Republican report, referring to Antrim County in northern Michigan, where local election officials briefly and inadvertently transposed voting numbers before correcting them, leading to false conspiracy theories about voting machines. The report suggests that Michigan's Attorney General Nessel, a Democrat, should consider investigating those who have been utilizing misleading and false information about Antrim County and to raise money or publicity for their own ends. It also adds that anyone who promoted the county theories as prime evidence of a nationwide conspiracy to steal the election had left, quote, all other statements and actions they make in a position of zero credibility. I mean, that's just freaking brutal.
Dominic, more shade casting on Detroit. And then I read down a little bit further during the conclusion of this email from the former president. Instead of doing a forensic audit, they want to investigate the patriots who have fought for the truth and who are exposing a very possibly rigged election. The truth will come out, and rhinos, Republicans in name only, if you're unfamiliar with the term, will pay at the polls, especially with primary voters and expected challenges. Our country was based on free and fair elections, and that's what we must have! Exclamation point. And then here's where it gets a little threatening, Dom. Call those two senators now and get them to do the right thing or vote them the hell out of office. And I'm thinking, you know, the unstated perhaps should be in parentheticals, by any means necessary.
I know what I saw.
And then he offers the specific phone numbers of Senators Mike Shirkley and Senator Ed McBroom via email, probably sent out to millions of people. He doxed two state senators. I mean, are these personal cell phones? You know, they're Republicans. There's a possibility that he could have talked to somebody who knew someone that had these cell phone numbers and he just doxed them. Someone called the numbers. Nah, we're not going to do that. We're not in the doxing mood.
Yeah, but we could call them and see if they pick up and see what their thoughts are.
I got to think if these were direct numbers of some sort, I got to think they're done taking calls. Any good we might hope to accomplish by, a laurel wreath, sort of a acknowledgement of the fine work they did in this Senate committee, finding that Trump's claims were ludicrous. The fact that he would come out and personally attack them after the fact is not shocking.
It's consistent, certainly.
Target them, even if they're Republicans. This is what Trump says about Republicans that don't support his lies. And the very thing he's arguing about, saying, get them the hell out of office, make them do the right thing. Well, that's what he called the Georgia election authorities and told them to do, right?
The right thing. Find how many votes, Crudy?
11,780, I think, give or take. No, just give more, but not take any. 11,780 votes. He was very specific.
Indeed, he was.
And this again borders on threatening, because these people are going to get death threats now.
Inspired by the cult leader. Yeah, sure. I mean, anytime Trump goes and does these things, that chaos will follow. That's how Trump is.
Didn't Rudy just get disbarred in New York State today for telling these very same lies that Trump is propagating and threatening, implied violence against Michigan State Republican lawmakers?
Yeah, but Trump doesn't have a law license.
Well, so he can't be disbarred. 844-967-2789.
Just a couple other items here from the Times. In this report that again, 3 Republicans, 1 Democrat on the state senatorial committee in the great state of Michigan. Also, the report found that the chaos had unfolded after Election Day as votes were being counted at the TCF Center in Detroit. Now, remember, TCF Center is in Detroit. Don't read the legal writings of the Kraken
lady, Sidney Powell, that attorney. Has she been disbarred yet?
Does she even have a license? The votes that were counted at the TCF Center in Detroit, it was the result of Republican operatives who called on supporters to protest the count. A quote, the Wayne County Republican Party and other independent organizations ought to issue a repudiation of the actions of certain individuals that created a panic and had untrained and unnumbered persons descend on the TCF Center. The 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat write in their report. Also claims that the Dominion voting system machines in Michigan and other states have been hacked to change results were false. The report said Mr. McBroom called Georgia officials to investigate claims made by Jovan Pulitzer. Remember that dude? Who said that he had access to manipulate vote counts. Pulitzer's testimony, quote, has been demonstrated to be untrue and a complete fabrication, the report said. He did not at any time have access to data or votes, let alone have the ability to manipulate the counts directly or by the introduction of malicious software to the tabulators, nor could he spot fraudulent ballots from non-fraudulent ones.
Dominic, I've also got a tweet. This one just went out from Republican Adam Kinzinger. I'm going to read it aloud for the sake of the audience. Calling for the execution of those telling the truth that the election was not stolen. I have no words, but I will try. To all leaders, tell the truth before it's too late. I think
calling
he's
for
speaking.
The execution. Who's calling for the execution?
Trump. You didn't. Let me read this again. I mean, perhaps it's a little too between the lines for you.
Maybe. Please reiterate.
I think he's in. I'll go back and clarify with the Kinzinger tweet, but I think he's specifically saying, call those 2 senators now and get them to do the right thing or vote them the hell out of office. Bear with me. Let me see if I can establish if Kinzinger is referencing the very specific statement made by the former Donald J. Trump, that is. OAN. Oh, pardon me. It was the news organization OAN calling for the execution of tens of thousands of Americans who stole the 2020 election from Trump. So it's the journalism site of the right that's actually calling for the execution of tens of thousands of Americans. I would like to correct the record.
Wow.
On behalf of myself and Congressman Adam Kinzinger, Trump just implying a threat. OAN
They're saying it.
They're saying it out loud. What was that, Trump? I didn't hear you.
You're going to be dead.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
So, it's sort of accelerating a bit, don't you think, Tom? I mean, I'm encouraged by the news out of both Michigan and, of course, out of New York. How could I not be just a little gleeful to hear that poor Rudy's lost his law license, been suspended for specifically telling the big lie over and over again in different courts of law, and of course in the public space. I mean, hell, even at the Four Seasons, Tom, I think he was kind of butchering things then.
Yeah.
What do they call those things? The facts. And now you got Trump, sort of the implied threat, rallying the troops. I'm going to march on the Michigan State House.
I'm going to join you.
I'll
March
meet
to
you
the
there.
Capitol. I'll meet you there. Exactly.
But why don't you hang those guys before I get there? Get an early start, like you guys tried with Mike Pence on January 6th.
Is there not anyone who will rid me of this Mike Pence?
And then there's OAN saying that, there should be executions of thousands.
Now, isn't that one of Trump's favorite news sources these days?
Oh, him and Scott Walker, they often appear on the OAN.
And isn't OAN the exclusive video provider of the Arizona fraud?
Oh, absolutely. It's the only news source trusted by cyber ninjas. And Donald Trump, of course. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Are we getting ready to nominate and award the D-Bag of the Day? I
Yes,
can think
we
of
are.
many. We'll see who we nominate next. More Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Let's have trial by combat. You're going to be dead. Exclamation point.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job?
Not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hungered in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
The Devil's Advocates.
There are lots of people that haven't made up their mind on this race, and you think, how could that be? No, there are. There are a lot of people that could still make a decision all the way on election day down.
Undecided voters are the biggest idiots on the planet. Try giving short, simple answers.
Like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. Yosemites, Yosemites.
Because freedom. 60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Make sure you download the Devil Radio app. You can find it on your smartphone applications.
Dominic, about 2:50 Central Time each and every day, we'd like to nominate and eventually award a D-Bag of the Day. And I hate to kick a guy while he's down, but I'd like to nominate Rudy Giuliani. In this case, not for losing his law license specifically, but as the headline over here at the Raw Story tells, Rudy Giuliani faced the expletive-laced tirade as Trump campaign lawyer explained Georgia recount rules. Pardon me. New book. They released some excerpts today in light of the fact Rudy lost his law license, I suspect. Michael Bender's new book. Frankly, we did win this election. That's what the book's called anyways. The Daily Mail revealed the excerpt Thursday, though the book isn't going to be released until August. Bender's book cites the 2020 campaign manager, Bill Stepien, and campaign lawyer Justin Clark, who walked Trump through the legal options. Giuliani, however, was blowing it up, the book describes, pushing his way further into the Oval Office. They describe a November 13th event, and I'm going to take you down to the quotes, Tom. Clark explained that state law required results to be certified before a recount could be requested, which hadn't yet happened, the book recalls. They're lying to you, sir, Giuliani shouted. The book continues, but Clark refuted Giuliani's claim and then devolved into a shouting match that was so loud those waiting outside the Oval Office could hear and were a little startled. You're an effing a-hole, Rudy, Clark said. I mean, this is a guy on the same team. Clark had been with the campaign for a year, going through state national party rule books to ensure the campaign was prepared for challenges. Before that, he was a White House aide. Now, after one phone call from Giuliani, the president was entertaining nonsensical attacks on his ability to read Georgia election code and give an honest answer to a simple question to the president. He'd spent 4 years trying to reelect. Clark stopped going to the White House. Then when Giuliani took over, that's when Giuliani took over. He now faces legal sanctions for lying in courts about the 2020 elections. And apparently, Dom, as the Raw Story reports, Rudy might have lost his law license. So Rudy is the one, perhaps, that planted the very first seeds of misinformation in Donald Trump's head, at least in regards to Georgia. And ultimately, think about this, when the indictments come down in Georgia, because Trump was looking for the 11,780 votes there, the very lawsuits, the criminality, the threatening of the officials in Georgia, well, that was done because Rudy planted the seeds. So therefore, the now disbarred Rudy Giuliani, I nominate you for D-Bag of the Day.
D-Bag of the Day.
Well done, Michael. I got one for you. Rep. Matt Gaetz. You see some of this testimony, man? Oh, my goodness. Tough guy Gaetz getting into it with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, General Mark Milley, regarding critical race theory.
Mark Milley Vanilli? Was
Milley
he one
Vanilli.
of those guys?
You know, he was actually
General Milley?
Yeah, he was the general that walked with Trump through Lafayette Square after they tear gassed and pushed the peaceful citizens exercising their constitutional rights out of the way so Trump could go to a burned out church and hold a Bible upside down for his photo op. Now, Milley later apologized, and I guess apparently after the fact, recognizing that didn't look too good. But he was providing testimony today, and Gaetz was, cracking to these folks about the critical race theory. And Milley had a comeback I'd like to play for the people right now. Brian, if you would, please. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Rudy, I think it was yesterday, but we got to keep moving on this sound.
Yes. Cut number 5, please.
First of all, on the issue of critical race theory, et cetera, I'll obviously have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is. But I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders now and in the future do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look it, I do want to know. And I respect your service, and you and I are both Green Berets, but I want to know. And it matters to our military and the discipline and cohesion of this military. And I thank you for the opportunity to make a comment on that.
So that wasn't a direct response to Matt Gaetz, who had been bringing up this critical race theory throughout this committee hearing yesterday. A fine response. Apparently, this one has gone viral. Still don't like the fact that you walked through Lafayette Square with the former guy, General, but you did a fine job responding to my nominee for today's D-Bag of the Day, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz.
Papa's got a brand new
D-Bag.
And Gaetz was sitting there so smugly, just shaking his head as he's getting his ass handed to him by the general. It was something to behold. Certainly a D-bag moment.
You know, I was thinking about nominating one more, keeping it in the family. Andrew Giuliani took to Twitter Thursday to rant about the recent decision to suspend his father from practicing law. You know, young Giuliani's running for governor of New York. The elder Giuliani is accused of lying to the court multiple times. According to the younger Giuliani, he claimed while the incident was about politics and attacked the Justice Department. This is just unbelievable to see how politicized all this has become. This is unacceptable, and I stand by my father. He did everything ultimately by the book, and the fact that there would be this politicization in our Justice Department is disgusting. It is a cancer that needs to be cut out. It needs to be cut out right now. What he may not realize, Dom, is it's the state Supreme Court of New York that censored his dad by taking away his law license for lying to the court. Anyways, the whole Giuliani family, they're all
Yes.
D-bags today.
Yes, they win.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Hour 2 is next.
D-Bag of the Day.
You can't handle the truth.
It isn't truth. Truth isn't truth.
I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
AP News, I'm Ed Donahue. President Biden talked about the people in Florida, victims of a collapse of part of a condo building. Nearly 100 people are still unaccounted for. At least one person has died.
I say to the people of Florida, whatever help you want the federal government can provide, we're waiting. Just ask us, we'll be there.
The AP's Terry Spencer is in Surfside, Florida.
People who were in neighboring buildings described hearing what sounded like either thunder, feeling what felt like an earthquake. One said it felt like a large windstorm had come. Many of them checked their weather apps on their phone thinking that they were a storm. but they didn't see anything.
Rescuers pulled out dozens of survivors and continued to look for more. It's not clear yet why the building collapsed. President Biden says he has a bipartisan deal on a $973 billion 5-year infrastructure bill.
5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, part of a larger group, has come together and forged an agreement that will create millions of American jobs and modernize our American infrastructure to compete with the rest of the world and own the 21st century.
The president met with senators from both parties at the White House. Democrats like West Virginia's Joe Manchin were there.
It's a tremendous opportunity for us to show the rest of the world that we can still get big things done in a bipartisan way.
This includes more than $500 billion in new spending and could open the door to President Biden's more sweeping $4 trillion proposals later on. President Biden is vowing Afghans who help the U.S. military are not going to be left behind, as his administration stepped up planning to evacuate thousands of Afghan interpreters while their applications for U.S. entry are processed. An AP analysis shows nearly all coronavirus deaths in the U.S. now are in people who weren't vaccinated, an indication that deaths per day could be practically zero if everyone eligible got the vaccine. This is AP News.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. A CGM can immediately reduce pain. It's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Plus, get free shipping, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. Call now to receive your new continuous glucose monitor at little or no out-of-pocket cost.
Paid for by U.S. Medical Supply.
Call 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638. Again, 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
My name is Rocker, and this is my vodka. Rocker Vodka is distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Find Rocker Vodka at Woodman's, Festival Foods, Trixie's Liquor, Star Liquor, Steve's Liquor, Willie Street Co-op, Total Wine, Vic Pierce, Miller's Market, Cambridge Cooler. Find more at rockervodka.com. It's yummy. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Hey, Joanne, I hear you have a Tech Protect plan from Community PC.
I have been having services since 2013. He provides monthly maintenance for me. He is able to attach to my computer so he can figure out what my problems are. I'm very computer illiterate. If I had to call somebody on the telephone, I would probably not be able to follow through with that.
Community PC. We know what makes seniors happy.
Over the years, we have done our best to bring you the highest quality products our industry has to offer. And we are very excited to bring you a new location just east of the Capitol at 951 Williamson Street. Now with 3 locations, there's an Ignite Glass and Gifts near you, no matter which side of town you're on. Madison's favorite for glass gifts and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Let's torch some glass at Ignite.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6, don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Wednesday, a state appeals court refused to stay a Dane County Circuit judge's decision from earlier this year to terminate the contract among Republican lawmakers and private attorneys in anticipation of challenges to the redistricting process later this year. The GOP lawmakers had requested the stay in order to continue working with the private attorneys while they await an appeal. In the appeals court decision to deny the stay, the court said it was not persuaded by Speaker Voss and Senate Majority Leader LeMahieu's claims of irreparable harm, and the court decided the lawmakers did not establish why a stay of the earlier decision was necessary. Forecast of overcast skies this morning with thunderstorms expected this afternoon with a chance for some to turn severe. Winds up to 20 miles an hour and a 70% chance for rain. Scattered thunderstorms expected to continue overnight with a low of 68 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, hour 2, all about a deal for a future deal, or maybe not a deal. We're going to have to find out. I've got some contradictory sound bites on this whole deal being announced at the White House today. Joe Biden, our president, made a bipartisan deal. 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, senators. You know, that's the more important body because you can get it through the House. But as I pointed out, Dom, this deal is either no deal or it's a bad deal for the Democratic Party. And they only get one bite at the apple. They only get one chance to deliver for the American people. And while, again, I don't oppose the notion of bipartisan legislation, but if that's the only bite at the apple you get, don't accept this deal, Joe, because you know what? Mitch McConnell's not going to accept this deal unless you burn your golden reconciliation ticket. And hell, even Nancy Pelosi knows better than that.
Well, the only quote I saw from McConnell today was that he said he's still listening.
Come on, man. Okay. Let's just put it this way. Whatever the most evil possible partisan outcome, just put Mitch in that column and you're probably not going to be disappointed.
Right.
So, of course, Mitch McConnell is not going to let, 5 more Republican desertions, traitors cross over and try to do something for the American people.
But it's infrastructure, man. Right? As you mentioned, who doesn't want to vote for infrastructure? You
Mitch
think
McConnell.
McConnell's got but McConnell doesn't have to vote for it, right? He has his one vote, and all the other Republican senators, they all have their votes, right?
No, Mitch McConnell has a caucus that lines up and does damn near whatever Mitch McConnell tells them. There are very few that go rogue in this party since the Maverick passed. Anyways, Tom, let's get to the sound. Let's get to the Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, a triumphant Joe leaving the White House to announce a big deal for a deal. Cut 50.
We had a really good meeting. And to answer your direct question, we have a deal.
We have a deal, Tom. So that's the exciting news. And I hate to be the wet blanket. Let's leave that to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, cut 44.
There ain't going to be no bipartisan bill unless we are going to have the reconciliation bill.
So Nancy said there ain't no deal. And you know who I believe in this circumstance? I believe Nancy. Because Joe Biden's going to sign whatever bill hits his desk. If it's infrastructure spending, be it
if it's labeled and titled as infrastructure, Biden is signing it.
Biden. So the fact that they would go to the White House to negotiate with the president's team, well, that's great. Publicly, he came out and supported this centrist pipe dream. And it's not a pipe dream because we shouldn't be negotiating with the other side. It's a pipe dream because you got the obstructionist in chief in Mitch McConnell, and he can control the entire flow of legislation from the minority. That's what's so freaking galling. And, again, they're giving cover fire. They're emboldening the centrist in Manchin and Sinema. They were both part of this bipartisan deal. Government still works, I thought, one of the quotes. Maybe Mitt Romney coming out of the joint today, out of the White House. No, it doesn't work. This is just an aspirational deal. This is a feel-good kabuki theater. This should be a kegger after you repealed the ACA at the White House.
We're talking
it has
about
as much impact.
$1.2 trillion. We're talking millions of jobs. You already have seen a crack in the Republican caucus, right? You already got 5 coming over. It seems to me like Mitch might be losing a little control. And as you mentioned, Crudy, who wants to vote against infrastructure? If the Republicans don't vote for this bill after all these other ones, the 5 go along with it, don't you think there will be some political blowback in that regard?
The entire Republican caucus voted in uniformity the other day, blocking the For the People Act. Yeah, there's always political blowback, but the
People
Democrats
didn't provide $1.2 trillion for infrastructure building over 8 years. Crudy.
Even worse, in the eyes of a Ron Johnson or half the Republican caucus, that's even worse. The fact that they might deliver some dollars back to the public, investment in the nation itself, and not just tax cuts for the wealthy, Dom, well, that's damn near unpalatable. And that's before we even get to the progressive side of the caucus, the Elizabeth Warrens, the Bernie Sanders. I'm not sure they're down for this because they see the folly of this deal. Again, you got one golden ticket. You don't waste it on Mitt Romney and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. You don't give them your free pass at Disneyland.
Pelosi on the infrastructure bill, speaking on the House time frame, cut 45, please.
We will not take up a bill in the House until the Senate passes the bipartisan bill and a reconciliation bill.
Yeah.
Now, Biden has come out and said, well, we're going to do these things in tandem.
Well, I believe Nancy Pelosi, she moves the agenda through the House. And Joe Biden might be a powerful man, the most powerful man, but she's the most powerful woman in the nation. She controls the flow of legislation through the House, Dom.
Manchin quoted on this infrastructure deal. Let's hear what he had to say. I'm kind of sick of hearing about him too. Cut 46.
We have to see what's in the other plan before I can say, oh, yes, you vote for this and I'll vote for that. That's not what I have signed up for. I want to sign up for what's in the plan that makes sense.
What do they call that? Log
rolling.
Because, of course, my conjecture is that Mitch McConnell is not going to allow 5 more defections. The over-under on how many Republicans will object to, will vote against this infrastructure bill, I'm going to put it at 45 down. You're not going to lose another Republican. At least that would be my prediction. You're certainly not going to lose 5 more. So if you got to pass it with 50, that only works through reconciliation. And again, you only get one crack. Why did you need the centrist to make a bad deal?
For the same reason that politically they allowed for the votes to go on the For the People Act. Manchin came in and he got his deal. If it passes, Joe, we'll let you do your amendment. That's what Schumer gave him, right? And of course it didn't. We all knew that it wouldn't. But it's just the continual effort and the continual no's from the Republicans.
Are they hoping the American people will be fooled, that they will be convinced that somehow these public announcements by Biden actually have weight or have moved the needle?
Well, certainly if it would be much worse for Joe Biden after coming out and saying we have a deal and then there's no deal. I mean, that's not great politically for him or the centrists if they don't get something done.
And we know that effectively there is nothing they can do to advance this legislation without burning the golden ticket. So this is as useless as a kegger at the White House after you pass the repeal of Obamacare through the House of Representatives. It was a meaningless hangover, Dom.
Let's hear Durbin also commenting on the infrastructure deal. Let's play cut 47, please.
The leaders, Pelosi and Schumer, met with a group and came away saying they felt positive about it. So they know more details than I do, but I've worked with this bipartisan group. It's a good group.
Yeah, so what? I don't care. I want to turn forward. I want to fast forward the movie. I want to turn towards the conclusion, at least of the chapter of this book, because this is not the conclusion. This is the filler.
This is a starting line We're just at the starting line, Crudy.
We're at the end of the beginning or the middle of the middle or the end of the, it's all meaningless because this is the blank. This is the false start, the false dawn. And the real legislative negotiation, the real deal to be made, well, that's still to be made.
The best is yet to come.
I tell you what, in this case, Tom, I'm putting my trust and faith in Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. Amen,
when she says it's ready, when Nancy calls it a deal, Trudy will be much more optimistic about the outcome.
Come on, you and your optimism and wanting to, fast forward. Joe Biden, this reminds him of the good old days. Cut number 51, Brian.
This reminds me of the days we used to get an awful lot done up in the United States Congress.
Yeah, the good old days. Puts his hands on Porter's shoulder.
Can we say Joe Biden's making America great again?
Again? Deals mean compromise. The president cut 52.
This reminds me of the days we used to get an awful lot done up in the United States Congress. We actually worked with them. We had bipartisan deals. Bipartisan deals means compromise.
Serious compromise. Is there any other kind? 53.
One of the things that we agreed on infrastructure, we made serious compromises on both ends.
Grave danger? Is there any other kind? So there you go. There we have some other sound we'll get to perhaps at the in the next segment. But I'm with you, Crudy. I think, you already heard Nancy kind of lay it down. They're not going to vote on anything until, when the Senate gets their job done, Nancy will bring it up and do it on her end. Now, what does that mean from Biden's perspective? Well, I think he said on the car run I saw, there's no guarantee this is going to pass. You think, Joe? So you have a bipartisan agreement that won't pass? And really, what are we agreeing on then?
That this is another show about absolutely nothing. We don't want it to be. We want it to be a substantive show about policy and investment and infrastructure, but kind of like Trump's infrastructure week. So far this week, Tom, it's been a lot of nothing burgers and big announcements and proclamations and some glad handing and, yearning back to the good old days. But at the end of the day, when this becomes a law, you can wake me up. I'll be sleeping in the back row back here. More Devil's Advocates. Wake me up. Dial up the phones right now. 844-967-2789. Your calls could be next. And then a fine guest, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. So once again, there's some urgency. If you could dial now.
Who here likes a good story about a bridge?
This is like bowl of doggy doo. Put a cherry on top and call it a chocolate sundae.
I did what I came to do.
You got nothing.
I did what I came.
I'm not down for voter suppression in my state.
No, right. This. It's got to be easy. It was great to have these options. We should have these options. We should have days off for people to go vote. We should expand the availability, the ease of our own citizens in this country to participate in self-governance. Republicans, why are you so opposed to that?
Because they lose those elections.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
We are the boy band. Your tween made you see. We are the boy. It's painful concert number 3. We are the boy band. We're 5 and 19. We are the boy band. Always singing on key.
You love your kids enough to take them to see their favorite band. Love them enough to make sure they're buckled up in the back seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The tear gas changed the crowd's demeanor. There was an air of disbelief as people realized that the police whom they supported were firing on them. "What are you doing? We support you," someone yelled. All of a sudden, pro-police people felt the police were attacking them, and they didn't know why. The pro-police crowd went from disbelief and confusion to anger.
The police instigated the crowd, right? The police were the oppressors here. So, Ron, Black Lives Matter?
I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open for your take at 844-967-2789. Former U.S. Attorney James Santelle going to join us at the bottom of the hour.
Dominic, I understand we have more sound to share with the audience. Where we go next?
Let's hear some of the Biden sound. Let's continue on. Cut number 60. The president pleased to report the deal for a deal.
I'm pleased to report that a bipartisan group of senators, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, part of a larger group, has come together and forged an agreement that will create millions of American jobs and modernize our American infrastructure to compete with the rest of the world and own the 21st century.
Part of a larger group? What larger group? I mean, obviously we know there's Dems in there, but are there any more Republicans, Joe?
The silent majority Dem?
Let's keep going. Cut 61.
There can be disagreements to resolve and more compromise to be forged along the way. But this group of senators and all the American people can be proud today because we've reaffirmed once again we are the United States of America.
Well, I mean, when you pass something, maybe then we can have the kegger, Joe. I mean, didn't we learn from the Republicans? Let's hear some more. Cut 62.
The fact is, investment in jobs and infrastructure have often had bipartisan support in the past. Matter of fact, when I first got to the United States Senate, it was probably the least difficult thing to do, this past infrastructure plans.
The least difficult, not these days. Not a quick change. Cut 63, please.
I didn't have that bleak view you all had. You said 48 hours ago, it didn't look good. It looked good to me 48 hours ago.
Joe, man, I'm still wondering, dude. Let's hear some more. Cut 64.
Some will come out tomorrow, Joe.
Right.
This deal means millions of good-paying jobs and fewer burdens felt at the kitchen table and across the country, and safer and healthier communities.
The president on our infrastructure investment 65.
American workers will be installing electric vehicle charging stations and undertaking critical environmental cleanups. This bipartisan agreement represents the largest investment in public transit in American history. And I might add that the largest investment in rail since the creation of Amtrak.
Now, what else will it do? Joe, cut 66.
The investments we'll be making as a result of this deal are long overdue. They'll put Americans to work in good-paying jobs, repairing our roads and our bridges. They'll deliver high-speed internet to every American home, bringing down the price that people pay now for internet service, and they'll close the American digital divide.
Joe, on more of these investments, cut 67.
These investments represent the kind of national effort that throughout our history has literally, not figuratively, literally transformed America and propelled us into the future.
Cut 68, the president speaking today.
We're going to do it all without raising a cent from earners below $400,000.
No tax increases for earners below $400,000 to fund this $1.2 trillion over 8-year infrastructure deal. What about competing? Cut 69.
We devoted far too much energy to competing with one another and not nearly enough energy competing with the rest of the world.
There's nothing we can't do together, Joe. Cut 70.
I said many times before, there's nothing our nation can't do when we decide to do it together, do it as one nation. Today is the latest example of that truth, in my view.
Just a couple more from the president to cut 71.
The bipartisan bill from the very beginning was understood there's going to have to be the second part of it. I'm not just signing the bipartisan bill and forgetting about the rest that I proposed.
Ooh, so how's that going to work, Joe? 72.
Both need to get done. I'm going to work closely with Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer to make sure that both move through the legislative process promptly and in tandem.
Promptly
and in tandem.
Wishful thinking, sir. Joe, a little old to be this naive, don't you think, Tom?
I don't know. Maybe he knows something we don't know. Crudy, finally, the president speaking, cut number 73.
I'm not going to rest until both get to my desk.
No sleep till Brooklyn.
2 bills in tandem get to his desk.
844-967-2789. Your opinion's welcome here. I don't have the monopoly on good ideas, just, a large market segment. LA Tom, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, Tom.
All right, guys. First off, we the people are the government, and we must never forget it. And Republicans are horrible for business.
Tom, if we the people were the government, wouldn't we have passed the We the People Act?
Well, that is my point, is that we actually, if we could actually get money out of politics and get lobbyists out of politics, we'd actually restore government back to we the people. But we still can't forget that we the people are the government. And so when people talk about bad governance, they're really talking about us. Joe Biden is being wow. I don't know if he slept through the whole Obama years or what the hell, but this feels like it's just a repeat of the same. And I don't care what anyone says. To me, when they say with this group of characters that bipartisanship is working and all of this stuff is working, you know what that says to me? You're both being bought out by the same corporations, and you're both being owned by the same corporations. There's got to be a distinction between the difference between Democrats and Republicans in order for people not to think that they're both the same party.
Tom, let me draw a distinction. Republicans, only 34% of Trump voters said they would accept Biden as the legitimate president. That's in contrast with 68% of Al Gore voters and 76% of Hillary Clinton voters that accepted Trump as president. Above and beyond that, this brand new polling just hit today. Trump's efforts to overturn the results, 86% of Republicans said the legal challenges were appropriate. 79% said they weren't confident of the national vote tally. 68% said Trump really won. And another 54% said Trump should never concede. And the plurality said state legislatures should override the popular vote. Fascism, America. It's a bright future. Come back, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle, our good friend. Well, he stays out of prison with the rest of us.
This is America.
Yes! F*** you too!
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive news talk from Black Earth to Columbus. Always streaming at darnwi.com.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply.
I see Jim Santelle.
Civic Action.
In-person culinary dinner theater is back at Delectable. This is a signature event where the chef is the star, the wine experts and mixologists, the co-stars. You are the audience, and your palate, the judge. Chef Jake Lawler will treat you to an extraordinary multi-course feast paired perfectly with wine and spirits. Enjoy local, organic, and sustainable ingredients. It's Culinary Dinner Theater at Delectable, located within Von Foss on University Avenue. Reserve your seat now at delectablemadison.com.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue.
Hello, sir.
AP News Minute. Stocks
Brian, how are
higher,
you?
the Dow up 322 points.
Glorious.
President Biden
Good,
met with
good.
senators from both parties about
Sound is
infrastructure.
okay.
The result, they have a deal.
They have my word.
Sounding just fine, my friend.
Wonderful.
Or as best as I can. Where I come from, that's
Believe in yourself, Jim. You can do it.
Rob Portman likes what's in the bill.
This is roads and bridges, but also lots of other kinds of infrastructure, including broadband, including our,
It gets a lot of people buy a lot of things.
all of which is good for the economy.
It's not what
Not
the
a lot
president
to know
wanted. He
that,
was
but-
asking for much more than what he got.
But this reminds me of the days we used to get an awful lot done up in the United States Congress. We actually worked with them. We had bipartisan deals. Bipartisan deals means compromise.
Details of the deal are scarce to start. An AP analysis shows nearly all coronavirus deaths in the U.S. now are in people who weren't vaccinated. I'm Ed Donahue.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. A CGM can immediately reduce pain. It's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Plus, get free shipping, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. Call now to receive your new continuous glucose monitor at little or no out-of-pocket cost.
Paid for by U.S. Medical Supply.
Call 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638. Again, 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638. For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, the Republican-led state Senate passed a bill to delay local redistricting deadlines until next year, which Republicans say is necessary due to delays in the state receiving 2020 census data. The bill heads to Governor Tony Evers for his consideration. The state Senate also passed a bill that would make Wisconsin a Second Amendment sanctuary, which would essentially exempt the state from any enforcement of federal gun laws. The constitutional basis for the bill is questionable at best and is unlikely to be signed by Governor Evers, who has in the past supported strengthening gun laws in Wisconsin. This morning on Matt Flynn Direct, attorney and voting rights advocate Peter Pekarsky announced he is forming an exploratory committee into whether or not to enter the U.S. Senate race in 2022. To hear the entire interview, check out the podcast at devilradio927.com. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we welcome back a fine guest, a favored guest, one of our good friends. He is former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. Jim, welcome back to the show.
Mike, Dom, good to be with you once again today, not in person, but through the miracle of electrons.
Well, Zoom is a wonderful technology.
Thanks, Jim.
Jim, let me ask you, did you come to share the glee of the panelists over the fact that Rudy Giuliani apparently has had his legal license suspended? He's no longer a New York State attorney. I mean, the guy had been practicing law since 1969 in New York. That's longer than I've been alive, Jim.
And the former United States Attorney, former Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer for the Southern District of New York. No small thing, of course, former mayor of New York as well. This is a big deal, certainly for him, but also for the nation, and perhaps also for our former president, with whom he may still have some sort of a now former legal representation arrangement. But the appeals court in New York apparently said that Rudy Giuliani should be punished and have his law license suspended for making demonstrably false and misleading statements, their words, not mine, related to the widespread voter fraud allegations, and significantly that his eagerness to trump that particular, no pun intended, to trump that particular position threatens the public interest and erodes public confidence. Those are big words for a court to use in basically shutting down a lawyer and saying not only have you engaged in misconduct, but you've taken the community down with you too. So this is decisive, and it probably will not keep him outside of the public domain and not stop us from talking about him, but certainly shuts him down, at least in terms of signing more crazy and unfounded pleadings in the courts of our country.
Jim, I don't follow the bar in New York State, but I do occasionally read the legal register here in the state of Wisconsin. And when I've seen attorneys disbarred or censured as such in a similar fashion to Rudy Giuliani, it's usually been for absconding with their clients' financial resources. I mean, it's been a huge breach of the fiduciary relationship, something of the nature. Usually it's followed by charges and perhaps even jail time, Jim. This relative to what usually leads to the suspension of a law license. I mean, I didn't know they could take your license simply for lying.
And if you think about it, this should be the top of the list, right? As significant as it is for lawyers, unfortunately, as you just indicated, that often happens more than we would like, that attorneys dip into the trust funds and engage in other inappropriate conduct with respect to money. This should really be at the top of the list, right? You're making false statements to a court, a tribunal. We all take an oath of office as lawyers, and certainly in government as well, as he did in the distant past, to support the Constitution, not to lie to the court, to be honest. Many times in my career and the career of other lawyers, both in government and outside of government, that we are in situations where, again, maybe not in the best interests of our particular client, but we always tell the truth, right? Because that is our principal mission. And even though that may compromise our legal position, the factual arguments we make, the legal arguments we make, if you begin to compromise that notion about being honest with the court, and again, as the appeals court indicated, you're undermining the very operation of the judicial process, you should have your license taken away because you violated that fundamental contract between the court and you, which is a license to practice law premised upon the notion to be honest and straightforward. This is, again, I would offer the top reason to take his license away from him.
James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, joining us. Jim, the court called him an immediate threat and said that he directly inflamed the tensions that led to the Capitol riot in January. I mean, this is some pretty poignant wording.
He did give a speech and call for trial by combat at the event site.
So accurate, certainly. Jim, a couple of questions I have in that regard. If Giuliani is licensed to practice law in other states, does this impact that at all?
And so the answer technically is no, but again, I'm licensed only to practice in the law in the state of Wisconsin. But if I had multiple licenses and the state of Wisconsin suspends me, terminates my license, you better believe that those other states are going to say, gee, something's going on there, especially when this is not, as Mike just indicated, this is not something specific to a particular violation of a New York rule, a procedural process, that sort of thing. This goes to national impact that you're having, inciting a riot, if you will, an insurrection. And so it's entirely possible that other jurisdictions, I don't know if Rudy is licensed other places, I suspect he is, would likewise be taking a look at this, because again, the basis for doing this goes far beyond the borders of the state of New York. You're absolutely right.
Jim, how about some of the other attorneys involved in these kinds of actions? The Kraken lady, Sidney Powell, comes to mind. We had some here in Wisconsin. Lynn Wood. I mean, we have other
Cardall.
Do you foresee perhaps that this will happen to them as well? That some of these, states will look at these issues and say, no, you are no longer qualified. And was there a specific legal action to begin with? Like, what started this Giuliani thing? And do you think that's going to happen for some of these other attorneys?
Sure. The process generally, again, to speak to Wisconsin, it's pretty much true of other states as well, as you get a complaint, right? It's got to be reviewed by some administrative folks who take a look at it, investigate it. When the court finally makes this determination, as it did here, that's pretty much the end of the road. You've already gone through a process of investigation and kind of review. With respect to the others, in fact, if I were any one of those other attorneys, I would see this as very bad news. We already know you've got a judge who's presiding over one of those now closed cases challenging the election, who's called all the attorneys who signed off on the pleadings to be in front of her in court for a sanctions hearing. Let's tune in for that. You better believe that she's got some scripts ready to go there and is going to make some findings there, probably about fines, probably about maybe suspensions to practice in that court. And those kinds of things will also get the attention of the local, the state bars, who will say, gosh, if you've got a judge who is imposing sanctions, monetary or otherwise, we should take a look at this too. So all of those folks who are out there standing next to, behind, in front of Rudy Giuliani for all of those press conferences, and most importantly, signing off on those pleadings and advocating in front of judges. It's one thing to appear in front of the Four Seasons landscaping entity. It's another thing to be in a federal or state court making affirmative statements that you know are not true. Again, goes to the core of what attorneys should do and who we are. Those other folks are also, and have been for a while, in big trouble. I would put this at the top of the list. Other people will be added to the ledger, if you will, who are also going to be suspended or at a minimum fined and sanctioned by courts around this country.
Our fine guest, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. And a quick clarification, Jim, you're still an attorney at law, right? Just a former U.S. attorney, with the Rudy semantical clarifications. Right. Just want to get it on the record, sir.
Let's be very clear about that. Former United States attorney, but as late as this afternoon, still practicing law in the state of Wisconsin, in good standing, paid my bar dues, and everything else about the state bar tells me that I can do just that. Yes.
I pay my bar dues every night, Jim. I'm not an attorney.
But my understanding is part of what the Supreme Court panel found in New York State is that Rudy not only lied to the court, but lied to the American public. And if that is the standard, Jim, well, a little digression, but there's a guy down the dial, a righty-whitey talker, who is an attorney at law here in the state of Wisconsin, and in fact gave testimony to an assembly committee talking about the voting irregularities in the state of Wisconsin. I'm talking about Dan O'Donnell. Should someone go look into the current active status of his law license, Jim?
Now, the reality is that when I am out speaking, including right now on your wonderful radio program, am I still a lawyer? Am I still responsible for the things that I say? The answer is yes. And again, I plainly have been wrong about certain things, including the reputation of a former attorney general. Kinds of opinion pieces do not fall into the category of affirmative misstatements and things that again could be in the public domain. So while again the principal focus often is on representations made in writing and to courts, when attorneys are out in the public and assuming those public roles and really wearing, if you will, the coat, the jacket of being an attorney and having that kind of imprimatur on them, courts can also look at that as well and say, gosh, this is not just private citizen who happens to have an opinion on something. This is someone who brings along, if you will, the entire practice of law and the entire bar that is, again, has got a reputation. And that's what this is really about, preserving the reputation of lawyers. I know that will open up other comments, but preserving that notion the public should have some confidence that most, if not all lawyers, when they say something, either will say, gosh, I don't know, or will only speak when they do know the answers accurately and comprehensively.
I suspect Rudy doesn't give a damn about his bad reputation. Jim, want to turn the attention to something else, perhaps the reason and the rationale for Rudy's immediate threat, the January 6th insurrection. And we've now got a commission. My understanding is the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, it's not going to be bipartisan. The Republicans, we all know, didn't want a part of this action. But Jim, do you think the commission created by Pelosi will have any teeth and will advance the conversation for the American people?
It will. It will certainly do more than doing nothing, right? There have been certainly some inquiries up to this point about the nature of the security forces and plenty other investigations that looked at preparedness and those kinds of things. But this is a broad sort of scoped review of what happened on that day. How did it happen? Why did it happen? And again, many questions out there. The bipartisan commission was going to take that on broadly. As we know, the Republicans decided not to support that, and so that went away. She is now, again, language does mean something. She's now going to, as she announced today, appoint a select committee, which is different procedurally. And the concern that I think prompts your question, and I think the concerns of many people, is we go down this road of having what will now be a very partisan review of this. And so we all remember the Benghazi hearings, right, when we insisted that the now former Secretary of State and former First Lady and former United States Senator Hillary Clinton appeared before that committee. very partisan review of, and again, many committees, but without the independent nature of a commission, which was what the former proposal was, that produced the 9/11 commission report. Credible because it's got this independent source to it and independent veracity and imprimatur on it. This is second best, and it is a second tier, but it also is going to have the aura, if you will, of partisanship, and we'll have pontificating, frankly, on both sides, and it's not the truly investigative piece that I'll show again. Here's the report itself. It doesn't produce this kind of comprehensive thing that you look at and say, you know what, this is credible because it's a product of that independent, separate investigation. This is going to be lots of questions, many of which will be framed for the 5:30 national news and 6 o'clock news locally.
Oh, James Santelle, who's got that kind of room on their bookshelf anymore? I wanted to ask you about it. I take some solace in the prosecution of the individual insurrectionist. And in fact, we saw the sentencing of the very first, although I was a little disappointed at the Senate's probation. Apparently, she is the library card defendant. Her attorney apparently gave her a book club and a library card and sent her off to read and educate herself. And Jim, apparently she found some sympathy with the courts because they gave her a $500 fine, a period of probation, but she showed remorse and didn't get any jail time. You know, you can get sent to jail as a term of probation, Jim. I'd have liked to have seen at least a couple weeks.
Right. So this is Anna Morgan Lloyd. She's 49 years old. She pled guilty to demonstration. And again, she was apparently did, in fact, enter into the Capitol building. And as you said, $500 fine, 40 hours of community service. And she does say she'd like to apologize to America, my family, so forth. I went to show support for the president, and I became a part of this savage display of violence. I share your concern. She's an adult human being. And at the time, she said on her post, "It was a day I'll remember forever. I'm proud that I was a part of it. Most exciting day of my life." And now, as you've also indicated, that she's watched Schindler's List and Just Mercy as a way of addressing this. So,
Jim, you got a few more minutes for us?
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with Jim Santelle.
Let's have trial by combat.
I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise.
Tell you something. You're suspect.
Have you seen Schindler?
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking. Now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever. Josh Call, the candidate for Wisconsin Attorney General.
Do you think voter ID had a suppressive effect, not on 100 voters, but on thousands of voters and perhaps tipped the election to Donald Trump?
This is an issue that came up at our trial. And first of all, I should thank you guys because we actually introduced into evidence the recording of you interviewing Dale Schultz, who was talking about the passage of the voter ID law. That was one of our pieces of evidence.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates. The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. If you miss any of this fine program, go to devilradio927.com. You can listen to and download podcasts and interviews.
Dominic, we got a fine guest. He's a friend of ours. He's sticking around, a former U.S. attorney, currently a plain old attorney of the, good sort. We like him. He's James Santelle, but, semantically, you got to draw a distinction, Jim. And, during the commercial break, I was thinking just for a moment, while I didn't perceive this sentence of this capital insurrectionist to be terribly harsh, probation, $500, the 40-hour community service part for Dominic, that'd be a life sentence.
Jim, I gotta ask you now. I do, given the gravity of what ultimately happened with the insurrection, I can appreciate perhaps the need for or the want of a heavier sentence than that. And as much as we make fun of, library card and watching Schindler's List, there is something to be said about, making the efforts and going through the motions. And although, as you mentioned, she was very proud of it the day of, the hangover from that apparently may have caught up to her. She's then now denounced what happened. How much do you think the judge gives for these leeway, given those kinds of actions versus, someone who doesn't go through those motions?
I think it's huge. If you come forth, even with this record that she's established of being very proud, as you just said, Dom, she comes forward and she says, now I know what life is like for others in our country. Again, I'm concerned at the age of 49, she's just coming to that realization now. But coming forth, and apparently she's also cooperated and did all the right things here. There is a reason for that kind of sentence. And I've also indicated in response to your question and Mike's as well. Remember, this is the first one. And so the first prosecutions are also, if you will, kind of the lower charged cases. We've got people who are charged now with higher level offense conduct felonies, conspiracies, a lot of the Proud Boys, the 3%ers, those are coming up. And so right now we're doing a number of those. I am not overly concerned, even though it's a bit troubling, again, as you see this first one out of the box, that this is going to be the pattern. I'm glad that to the extent that she is getting a lot of publicity here, that there is this recognition that, oh gosh, just 6 months ago, I was plainly deluded. Look what happened to me. I now have a criminal record, even at a misdemeanor level, that will stay with me through the rest of my life. And I now am the subject of discussions around the country, right here in Wisconsin and Minnesota, other places, and that will never go away either. And so I think the sentence here is probably appropriate given what judges do, but look for higher sentences as this goes on. Again, 500 more people charged already in this a very broad scoped Department of Justice investigation and litigation effort.
Well, certainly with regards to some of these other organizations, Oath Keepers specifically, Graydon Young pleading guilty to 2 felony counts, Jim, conspiracy and obstruction of an official proceeding, looking more than 5 years, and he will now cooperate with federal investigators. Well, the conspiracy guilty pleading, Jim, is one that really gets me going. He's going to help out the prosecutors in this case. What do you expect the conspiracy for him to provide information? What kind of information comes from cooperation from a guy who pled guilty to conspiracy? What should his conspirators be concerned at this point, Jim?
The answer is yes, yes, and yes, right? They should be very concerned. We talked before about what a conspiracy is. It's an agreement among people, one overt act in furtherance of that. And the fact that he is cooperating probably means not only is he turning over his social media, which the Department of Justice already has, but can talk about things like, oh yes, on the Wednesday before, I had this discussion at my home. Here's what we did. Here's what we talked about. And I'm going to give you names. I'm going to give you times and places where all this happened. Again, just like in the Trump investigations we've talked about, getting that human being inside the entity who's going to be able to put all the pieces together, even though you've got documents and videos and those kinds of things, this is what gives life to prosecutions. And that's why, frankly, of the news of recent days, that's the more important one, that the plea and his cooperation to a felony, and the fact that he's got co-conspirators who likewise are probably next on the list to be on the front page of the New York Times.
James Santelle, our fine guest for a few more minutes. Jim, when I was a young man of 20 years old, I had a youthful indiscretion. I participated in a riot and I was charged, big charges. and pled him down. And I can tell you, with hindsight of 30 years behind me, I didn't regret my actions. I regretted getting caught. Quick digression here again. Tucker Carlson the other night on the Foxy News talking about these conspiracy charges and the fact that in that document, in the charging document, apparently there are unindicted co-conspirators listed, and Tucker Carlson alleges fill-in FBI agents for that. Jim, please clarify why Tucker's full of guano.
Yeah, this is once again in the category, as we're talking today, not only about wild misstatements of facts, but also incredibly irresponsible. And getting back to Rudy, the kinds of things for which he got in trouble, and the kinds of things that undermined confidence in government. Let's use a number of adjectives: absurd, completely unfounded, irresponsible, reckless to say these kinds of things. The FBI is not perfect. U.S. attorneys are not perfect. Department of Justice is not perfect, but they don't get themselves involved in this. And I would offer just this perspective. Do you know how much activity and effort it would take to put together a conspiracy inside the Department of Justice to accomplish something like this? Number one, we often say with our tongue in our cheek, we're not that good, we're not that competent, but more seriously, it's just impossible. And so condemnation of those kinds of comments is not too much. Turn that off. Let's not continue to spread that around America. It is, again, irresponsible and the kind of thing for which there's no foundation. Look forward to the director to completely refute that and offer and ask Tucker Carlson, what is his evidence and the evidence that others who are now picked this up in the United States Congress for that notion? There is none whatsoever.
Tucker's just asking questions, Jim, and that's what I'm doing. Derek Chauvin to be sentenced tomorrow in Minneapolis. What would you expect, sir?
Sure. Sentencing guidelines, somewhere between 10 and 15 years. The judge has already indicated that he's probably going to depart upward from those sentencing guidelines based upon aggravating factors like the fact that he was especially cruel, that Chauvin committed this murder in front of a child with part of a group, all kinds of other aggravating factors here, violated his oath of office. My guess is somewhere around 20 years or so. Will not be the 30 years that the prosecution is asking for, but probably nowhere near the probation that the defense is offering. My guess is Judge Cahill will depart upward from the 15-year kind of ceiling, somewhere around less or just slightly above 20 years or so. And Derek Chauvin will go to jail for that period of time, my guess.
Jim, for my youthful indiscretion, I was given community service. And had I not told a few fishtails to the court, it would have been a life sentence. I'd still be serving that community service. Our fine guest, James Santelle, always serving our audience. Appreciate you coming round, sir. More
Always a pleasure.
The Thursday, 4 o'clock, happy hour. It commences right now.
Thanks, Jim.
Good. Take care.
What has happened to us? What has happened to us?
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
Hey, Darcy, I just saw the perfect house and I want you to help me write an offer on it.
I'd be happy to, Dom. Were you at the open house?
No, I just called the sign and had the agent show it to me. I don't want to bug you.
Oh, Dom, how many times have you heard me say don't call the sign?
But
you called the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So
you need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process. And it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. 100 people are missing. The search continues. At least one person has died from this morning's collapse of a portion of a condo building near Miami. Daniela Levine Cava is the mayor of Miami-Dade County.
Our team at Miami-Dade Fire Rescue has dealt with collapse situations before. Their dogs are trained. They have been on the scene since they got the call at 1:38 this morning, and they are doing a fantastic job.
Opie Osen Cohen lived in the building.
When I opened the door to my apartment, it leads to a long hallway, and all I saw was debris, and the partial debris was covering the door next to us as well.
It's not clear how many people were still in the building. President Biden says he has a deal on an infrastructure bill.
This deal means millions of good-paying jobs and fewer burdens felt at the kitchen table and across the country, and safer and healthier communities. But it also signals to ourselves and to the world that American democracy can deliver.
The president openly acknowledged Democrats will likely have to tackle much of the rest of what he wants on their own. Rudy Giuliani's law license has been suspended in New York. An attorney disciplinary committee asked an appeals court to suspend Giuliani, saying he violated professional conduct rules as he promoted theories that the election in 2020 was stolen through fraud. Giuliani's son, Andrew, is infuriated.
I stand by my father. He did everything ultimately by the book. And the fact that there would be this politicization in our Justice Department is disgusting. It is a cancer that needs to be cut out, and it needs to be cut out right now.
New Yorkers will soon be able to designate their sex as female, male, or X on a driver's license and birth certificate. The infrastructure deal got thumbs up on Wall Street. The Dow finished up 322 points. This is AP News. An AP announcement.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. A CGM can immediately reduce pain. It's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Plus, get free shipping, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. Call now to receive your new continuous glucose monitor at little or no out-of-pocket cost.
Paid for by U.S. Medical Supply.
Call 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638. Again, 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
When you're having computer problems, you need a company you trust to get things working again, quickly and affordably. Madison Computer Works has been doing that for business and residential customers for decades. Our computer care plans take away the hassle of being without your computer or needing to bring it in for repair. Starting at only $10 a month, our local and friendly techs provide remote help and can fix most problems in just minutes. Call 608-231-8000 and sign up today. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
Tune into Sharp Elbows. It's on at 10 a.m. Saturdays with me, Representative Francesca Hong, and my friend Nada Elmakashvi. Every Saturday morning, we want to have a conversation with you about what's going on in the world. Whether it's on the biggest issues, current events, or people who inspire us, let's discuss it all. It's kind of like brunch, but with politics, guests, and callers. No shortage of fun, but also be prepared for some serious truth-telling. Talk to y'all soon.
Sharp Elbows airs Saturdays 10 a.m. only on Devil Radio 92.7.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6 p.m., we will break down the news of the day and discuss with my guests what's happening in Wisconsin. Don't miss a second of the award-winning Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. At last night's Wisconsin Natural Resources Board meeting, the Policy Board voted to allow the Department of Natural Resources to write regulations for limits of PFAS or forever chemicals allowed into drinking and groundwater. The decision will allow the DNR to identify sources of contamination and hold polluters accountable for the cleanup of roughly 18 PFAS compounds that the Department of Health Services has said are a threat to public health. During the same meeting, the Natural Resources Board unanimously agreed to support the purchase of an additional 220-acre property to Devil's Lake State Park for $1.64 million. Forecast of overcast skies this morning with thunderstorms expected this afternoon with a chance for some to turn severe. Winds up to 20 miles an hour and a 70% chance for rain. Scattered thunderstorms expected to continue overnight with a low of 68 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the Friday Eve 4 o'clock happy hour. I know you already got 1 foot out the door, man. I know how you operate. But we still got an hour left, and you can be a part of this big program. Just dial us up. Do your part. Dial 844-967-2789. Dominic, politics sort of take a back seat at playoff time. And I actually, and I'm not going to pretend to be a bandwagon Milwaukee Bucks fan because I am not. And people keep encouraging me, and I watched the game last night and I watched Game 7 with Brooklyn, but I'm not a huge fan. I'm just not. I'm more of a college guy. And
like college basketball versus pro basketball.
Yes. Yeah. March Madness is the pinnacle of all sport, in my opinion. And then they play these dragged out 48-minute games in the NBA.
Man, what are you talking about? Listen, I mean, I appreciate your point, man. Those kids, they play with heart, and they most of them will never see a court again. You know what I'm saying? These are the pros, man. These are the best of the best of the best, sir, out there, man. And I thought it was a great game. Unfortunately, a loss yesterday for the Bucks. But what a great game, man. Who's the cat from Atlanta? Trey Young? He was smooth.
He just lit him up.
Oh, my God. He was just so smooth.
Were they playing the same game? Because between Lopez backing up on the floaters and really the general lack of defense on Trey, man, it was hard to watch. And sure, I know the Bucks were close or ahead most of the game. Hell, they had a 9-point lead for a while. If only they could, let's just say, pull down a defensive rebound. And what is it about the Bucks? They can't win game 1. I mean, this is 5 consecutive NBA playoff series in a row that the Bucks have lost game 1.
Slow to adjust, but adjust they will.
Well, let's hope so. Or at least if you're a fan thereof. But I'm not a huge Bucks fan, as I pointed out. And I feel like I wasted a couple hours last night. It's not like I was going to accomplish something, but I could have read a book.
See, Amy and I got in right at the end, like right at the last 5 minutes of the whole game. That's all we needed to see. And we were huge NBA fans.
Yeah, because the first 43 minutes is boring.
Well, we were huge NBA fans until the Kings and Lakers series where Bibby got his nose broken by Kobe and the foul was on Bibby and a whole bunch of other stuff. A lot of shenanigans. Anyway, both of us were huge NBA fans. I used to go to Celtics rookie training camp. I have stopped watching basketball pretty much since the last Pistons championship. And this is the first time I've actually given a crap about basketball because I really like Giannis and I really like the Bucks team as well.
I'm with you, man. And I don't know what are you talking. I mean, baseball,
I stopped watching
golf,
the NBA.
These are boring sports, man. I mean,
My wife
and I enjoy baseball. Love going to the game. Love the party. But I mean, they're running up and down. They're playing ball. They're everything. If you're able to watch golf or baseball, how do you tell me basketball is boring?
Baseball is Americans' pastime.
What does that mean?
My wife called it boring last night, but she watched the NBA game. She laid on the couch, sort of napped through it, watched it with one eye, but she was wide awake for the end and she was rooting. I wasn't. I was just watching. I was just a passive observer of the action. And yes, I also, at least I used to, watch golf on television. Occasionally, mostly when Tiger Woods was at the top or Phil Mickelson was at the top, one of my favorites, but I play favorites. I'm a homer, man, and I get it. The Bucks, but Milwaukee, and you know this, Milwaukee has never been my hometown. And I tried doing a little business in Milwaukee, and they just said, not you, fella. But I don't hold that against the NBA franchise because I don't hold it against the Milwaukee Brewers. I love the Brewers. I'm a big Brewers fan. But the Bucks, NBA basketball. When Michael Jordan retired, I quit watching. I'd rather watch old ESPN, the Final Dance than watch the NBA Final Dance.
If you don't watch Bucks games now, you're never going to watch Bucks games,
I did,
man.
I watched it last night. And now, one game into the series, down 0-1. I just think, if you lose the next one, you're out of it, boys.
844-967-2789.
So I didn't waste the whole season rooting up until now, only to be heartbroken, like the 2001
It's like any
season.
other
Like
team
29
sport.
teams every year do that.
You get to, you get to, if you watch them, you get to understand some of the personalities, right? And you understand the players and you see the camaraderie on the team, and you see the talent, you see how well they play together and set each other up. So you see their ups and their downs. I mean, it takes time to, acclimate yourself to any sport, any team, especially if you haven't been in on it. And I haven't watched the Bucks since Big Dog and before that, Terry Cummings, you're going back to the 80s now, dude. So it's been a while.
You
for
look
me as
more
well.
like a Jack Sigma sort of fan.
Yeah. Oh, come on. I'm the Detroit Pistons guy, man. Isaiah Thomas and Vinny the Microwave, Bill Lambier, Rodman bringing the boards. Maybe if the Bucks get Rodman, they get a board.
Those guys were violent. That was a violent team.
I mean,
the bad boys.
If you can't, Robin's racing, man. Stay off the court.
I got to tell you, back then, I would watch the NBA Finals back then. It was a better sport then. Maybe I'm just growing old and
you're just old and cynical now. Get those kids off my lawn. And what happened to the music they used to play?
When it was Larry Bird against Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and Dr. J, I don't know. I'm not saying the basketball was better then, but I just had favored players that I liked watching in those Showtime circumstances better. And maybe it's because I don't, once a kid graduates from college, I lose track of them. I don't care. I don't even know who's good anymore.
The Bucks, they're good. They're going to win game two.
But above and beyond that. And that guy, man, what's he take about 2.5 minutes to shoot a free throw? Maybe if he just threw it up there quick, he'd brick less of them.
Big man on the line, not a pretty sight sometimes.
Not that I was a strong free throw shooter, even
or shooter or dribbler or walker and chewer gummer.
What I was good at as a backup center, really good, and I mean like my job in practice was to beat the crap out of the starting center so that whatever they threw at him, it was going to be nothing compared to me. If I ever went in a game, that was pretty much the attitude the coach took with me. Hey, Crute, you got 5 fouls. Go use them.
Use them up, fella.
844-967-2789. We'll talk a little bit more politics in this hour, Dom. But did you see what they said about the city of Milwaukee? And specifically, I mean, the ESPN, the First Take show. They talk some trash about your new adopted hometown, my friend.
I know.
I've got this article over at the Journal Sentinel. James Causey, he's been on our show before. His opinion piece headlined, "We may not want to admit it, but there's truth in what the ESPN crew said about Milwaukee. So what are we going to do about it?" I'd like to enter some of this
into the record. Some of you may not want to admit it, but for many people of color, Milwaukee is a terrible city. When ESPN's First Take discussed the possibility of traveling to Milwaukee for the NBA Finals on Tuesday, Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, Molly Rose, and Damian Woody quickly dissed the city. Woody, a former NFL player, asked Smith if he really wanted to travel to Milwaukee, and Smith responded with, "Hell no." Host Rose quickly jumped in. "Stephen A., you know what I just thought about, which is actually kind of funny. The only two times, the one time I didn't go to the Super Bowl, it was Minnesota, and that was the first year. I'm not sure what our plans are at First Take, but I didn't think we're going, Max and I, we'll see, and it's going to be two terrible cities." Those harsh comments hurt some feelings in Milwaukee. I could see you tearing up, Dom, and people respond by highlighting some of the city's many amenities. And as Causey writes, don't get me wrong, I was born and raised here. I love this city too. But if you look at the statistics for how people of color fared in Milwaukee, it's not hard to see why 80% of Black respondents rated this city fair or poor in a USA Today poll conducted in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. The poll revealed deep racial disparities. More than half of white and Hispanic people polled said the city is excellent or good. So I guess it all depends on your perspective, Dom. But consider, as Causey points out, Wisconsin has one of the highest rates of incarceration of Black men in the nation and has the widest achievement gap between Black and white students. Point number 2, Milwaukee ranks near the bottom of the nation's city for percentage of residents earning $40,000 or more a year. That's not a lot of jing, folks. We've been labeled as the worst place to raise a Black child. 26% of Black residents live in neighborhoods defined as having concentrated poverty, and only 28% of Black residents, own their own homes, which is worse than it was 50 years ago. Homicides hit a record in 2020, and the violence has continued this year, and car thefts are up 193% for the year, and we've already passed 2020's total. It's not even the end of June yet, Tom. Instead of a petition to ban ESPN crew from coming to Milwaukee, as Causey writes, maybe we should recognize how much work needs to be done. Now, there's much more from his article here, Dom. I don't know that we have time for lots of it. But the city of Milwaukee, the DNC was supposed to come here, and Joe stayed closer to home, let's just say. And obviously a pandemic, the reason and the rationale, I understand all that. But Dom, without Summerfest, man, I got to tell you, without a couple Brewers game and Summerfest, I don't know the next time I'll be in Milwaukee. Won't be for a Bucks game in all probability.
Oh, come on, man. Yeah, good luck getting tickets, Crudy. No question about it. Causey is spot on. The outcomes for Black Wisconsinites in Milwaukee are just friggin' terrible. Period.
I only go to Bucks games as a big shot. I've attended 3 Bucks games. Courtside on Michael Jordan's retirement tour, in Herb Cole's box, and one more time at the BMO Harris box up in the rafters of the Fiserv Forum. If there's not a limo waiting, I won't go. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls could be next. 844-967-2789.
You're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You play basketball for the Los Angeles Lakers.
So, do you come to Milwaukee often?
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
I've already guaranteed this will be my last term. I'm doing this because I want to solve these problems.
Was it problem solving when you blocked COVID relief or when you downplayed the insurrection?
I want to do it because I'm so concerned about the direction of this country. I've got something to offer.
Like becoming a hydroxychloroquine salesman?
I'll go home, smile on my face, realizing I'd left it all on the field.
You must be exhausted.
6 years from now, I'll for sure be going home.
We'll hold you to your word, Senator. Go home.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Viva la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Get ready to get local. Saturdays at 11 a.m., Dane by Local and 92.7 FM Devil Radio bring you Let's Get Local, a new program featuring area businesses and nonprofits that make our community unique and special. So tune in Saturdays and go local, Madison.
You've merely made radio your ally. I was born on the radio. Devil Radio, 92.7.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
There's something happening here.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We're going to go to the phones next at 844-967-2789. We'll start with Andy from Beaver Dam. Welcome, Andy. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Andy.
Well, Trudy, I kind of agree with you. The Bucks, whatever. Of course, unfortunately, I feel the same way about the Brewers, but
you take that back, Andy. They're a fine ball club. I don't know why I like the baseball team from Milwaukee, but never have embraced the professional basketball team. You know, maybe it was the publicly financed stadium, and I had some issues with the way we financed what was then Miller Park. And I would have liked to have seen us use the lottery. I mean, hell, why did people from 5 counties have to pay additional sales tax for years and years and years to finance a public stadium? And I know they do concerts and stuff there, just like they do at the Five Star Forum. But we, the taxpayers, own the Bucks' success, or at least the arena they play in. But as that franchise is ballooned in value, because they've got a premier stadium that we, the taxpayers, help to finance, well, we don't get to share in any of the bottom line, do we? Tickets keep going up in price last time I checked. The playoff tickets start at $100 and go up from there per ticket.
Yep. Well, I'll give you a little bit of trivia. The original guys that started the Bucks before you guys were born, they paid some money up here to build a field house for Whalen Academy, where the Bucks used to do their preseason training before they.
I've been in that. I coached in that facility. My son plays Special Olympics basketball, and they had a big tournament there.
Yeah. Well, that was originally constructed. I mean, it was for the school, but the Bucks used to practice there. And then, of course, I remember when Lou Alcindor, whatever his name is now, Juneau Village was on the east side, and they had to raise all the door openings. He had an apartment there over 7 foot so he could get into his apartment and live and so forth. So it's, but no, like you said, the money that was spent to keep the Bucks in Milwaukee and everything, and I don't know, it is what it is.
Cheaper to keep them, Andy. Cheaper to keep them.
Well, I guess so. You know, good old Scotty Walker, you know, and all that.
Well, it's not just Scotty Walker, Andy. Come on, there were like 25,000 people outside of the arena and 17,000 in. I mean, it was crowded. It was a party, and to have hopefully a few more games. Certainly, a lot of businesses love the crowds, man.
Well, Milwaukee needs it. I mean, they need to have something like that going. I won't grant that, but I don't know how much are willing the taxpayers to pay for something, I guess, but it's it is what it is. But at any rate, okay, I hope the Bucks get there, but if they don't, I'm sorry, I'm not going to cry too loudly. It's just one of them things.
Andy, like myself, and appreciate your call, Andy, invest way more energy in this radio show than in the Bucks outcome this year, be it, Eastern Conference or perhaps NBA Finals. The last time the Bucks won the championship, that Lou Alcindor guy was our center. That was 1971. That was 50 years ago. And then he changed his name. What'd they call him then? I think it was Muhammad Ali, something like that.
You're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Real quick. So taxpayer-funded stadiums, right?
Yes.
Both of them pretty much, right? How do we not have a taxpayer-funded, train that goes between the Fiserv to Pato to all the way to AmFam Field and back? With the drinking city that Milwaukee is, why does that not be part of any deal whatsoever?
Buddy, you're lucky there still is. I forget even what they call the light rail there in Milwaukee. That pandemic nearly killed the hop.
The hop nearly killed the hop.
Well, the fact it goes like 6 blocks back and forth might also be a little disadvantageous, but the light rail system in Denver, that's tremendous, man. I rode that. I love the light rail in Denver. Never been on the hop.
Well, yeah, Denver's goes places. The hop's kind of goes in a circle. They could expand it. They will expand it. My understanding, there's plans to expand it, but not yet.
There'll be right-wing talk radio opposition to any expansion.
Always.
Of the hop.
844-967-2789. Dick from Madison, welcome. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Dick.
How about those Detroit Pistons? Basketball with a football mentality. That's
how I like to play it, Dick.
Oh, I did too. Let's get down. And I'm with you. I'm more of a college fan now. I was a huge NBA fan when I was a kid.
And what changed it for you, Dick?
I think the money I don't know what really did. I really don't. But I digress from what I was going to talk to you about. Isn't this an interesting time we live in when the number one security threat now is being discussed as Donald Trump? With the crazy stuff that he's saying and doing and continuing to do. And then as far as these people...
Well, who's labeling him as the number one security threat, Dick, besides you?
Well, there was a former FBI guy on MSNBC that says that he literally is destabilizing things and, making it, in his opinion, that he is almost stirring the kettle to the point where he's the number one security threat. But as far as these how we've come down on the scale with this first sentencing, I don't even call it a sentencing. What a joke. Jaywalkers get a worse sentence than that. Martha Stewart got a worse sentence than that.
Trudy got a much worse sentence than that.
In my opinion, she should have got at least 2 years, and she should be able to vote for the rest of her life.
Dick, good thing you're not on the bench, man. They'd call you Dick the hanging judge. Don't want to come into his courtroom on a bad morning before he had some coffee. Dick, keep hanging out in the garage, man. Keep it tuned in to Devil Radio 92.7. Come back with us. Join the political party, 844-967-2789. And just for the record, I guess I went to a couple of Bucks games with Bobby in the cheap seats. And I used to have a Big Dog jersey, but then they broke my heart. 2000-2001 season. Look it up.
You're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You play basketball for the Los Angeles Lakers.
His mama named him Clay. I'm going to call him Clay.
This is the radio station you were looking for. Devil Radio 92.7. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. It binds the world together.
Help me, Devil Radio. You're my only hope.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Monaco Brewing Company, and I also have a super PAC. We make good trouble in the North Woods of Wisconsin. You can support our efforts at the MonacoBrewingCompany.com and buy our Wogue gear, like t-shirts, hoodies, and trucker hats. Enter the code RADIO and get 10% off on your next purchase. A portion of all sales support the Monaco Brewing Company Super PAC, which is dark money meant for good. That's the MonacoBrewingCompany.com.
Hey, it's Chris and Brian here from the On the Bus podcast. Be sure to check out new episodes on devilradio927.com.
We interview people who have stories to tell about living life on the road. All the odd food, internal struggles, and insane bathrooms you can handle.
They may be world-traveling gods, but they're all just humans when they're on the bus.
Podcasts drop every other Tuesday on devilradio927.com.
No yelling on the bus!
Building collapse. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. A wing of a 12-story beachfront condo building collapsed outside Miami early this morning, killing at least one person and trapping residents in the rubble. Rescuers pulled out dozens of survivors and continue to look for more. Nearly 100 people are thought missing. Surfside, Florida Mayor Charles Burkett.
This just doesn't happen. You don't see buildings falling down in America. And here we had a building literally fall down.
On video footage captured from nearby, the center of the building appeared to fall first, with a section nearest the ocean teetering and coming down seconds later as a huge dust cloud swallowed the neighborhood. A bipartisan group of senators and President Biden have a deal on a nearly $1 trillion infrastructure plan.
This deal means millions of good-paying jobs and fewer burdens felt at the kitchen table and across the country, safer and healthier communities.
The agreement could open the door to the president's $4 trillion proposals later on. I'm Tim McGuire.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. A CGM can immediately reduce pain. It's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Plus, get free shipping, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. Call now to receive your new continuous glucose monitor at little or no out-of-pocket cost.
Paid for by U.S. Medical Supply.
Call 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638. Again, 800-611-6638. That's 800-611-6638.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Wisconsin Assembly Speaker Robin Vos is blaming the expanded unemployment benefits for individuals who lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic as a reason to explain the increase in crime the city of Madison is experiencing. In an interview with 27 News, Vos said the expanded benefit is a disincentive for people to work, and it also means people get into mischief. Dane County is experiencing an unemployment rate of 3.2%, below the state of Wisconsin's unemployment rate and well below the national average. Without explaining why the proposal was necessary, the Wisconsin Joint Finance Committee unanimously approved a bill that would create a new legislative human resources office. Open records advocates are concerned confidentiality aspects written into the proposal would block public access to reports of misconduct if passed into law. You're listening to Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the 4 o'clock happy hour. It rolls on. And Dominic, I gave, a couple of minutes of semi-serious thought to why I don't like the Bucks as much as the other Wisconsin teams. And I think I've got an answer, and it's probably not the financing mechanism for the stadium. Probably.
All right.
And it's probably not the big dog in the loss in the conference finals in 2001 and 2001. It's probably the lack of the Milwaukee Bucks on the radio when I was a kid growing up in Madison. I mean, we had Badger hockey, we had Badger football, Badger basketball, all those things. I'm a huge fan growing up. And we had the Brewers. I mean, I've been listening to Bob Uecker since I remember. He is the earliest memory I have, maybe him or Paul Braun doing Badger hockey, of anything I've ever heard on the radio. And that was my true love. You knew I wanted to be a play-by-play guy, Dom. And no offense to Ted Davis, the voice of the Bucks. We're friends on Facebook, in fact. But Ted Davis, you are no Bob Uecker, sir. So I never really fell in love with the Bucks because I couldn't hear them on the radio. That's my thought, and I'm sticking to it. But Dom, I do a radio show with you, and usually it's not Sports Talk Live. Usually it's the Devil's Advocates. Maybe turning it back to the local politics. Saw a little headline. MVP of the league, Robin Voss, Speaker Robin Voss signs contracts paying retired police officers $20,000 to investigate the 2020 election. That's good work if you can get it, Tom.
Damn.
Assembly Speaker Robin Voss is paying retired police officers nearly $20,000 so far at taxpayer expense to investigate the results of the 2020 presidential election. So that's like the rolling tab in the cab. We're just at the stoplight. It's still rolling.
Right.
That have been under scrutiny by Republicans after former President Donald Trump falsely claimed massive voter fraud led to his loss. Under 2 contracts Voss has signed in recent weeks, the officers will investigate potential illegalities. And leads brought forward by an earlier review by the Assembly Elections Committee or through media reports. The contracts required the findings to be confidential. So if they don't like the outcome.
We're using public taxpayer dollars to pay private individuals to go on a investigation, quote unquote, and the information that they acquire will be kept confidential to whom?
Well, one must assume the guy that signed the contract, that'd be MVP Robin Voss. Voss signed one 3-month contract with former Milwaukee police detective Michael Sandvik for $3,200 per month on June 16th. My math says that's about $9,600, Tom. A second contract with former Eau Claire police detective Sergeant Stephen Page was signed by Voss on Wednesday for the same amount and terms. So another 10 G's. And there's a third guy plus a lawyer, right, Tom? Voss has said he plans to hire a third and an attorney to conduct the 3-month investigation. Well, you better get to hiring or it's going to be more than 3 months. The review accompanies one Republican lawmakers ordered the nonpartisan Legislative Audit Bureau to conduct. I'm okay with their investigation. The nonpartisan Legislative Audit Bureau, if they want to drop an audit of the election, I'm kosher with that. And follows a third review by the Assembly Elections Committee earlier this year. Let's not forget the first one to testify at the hearing back in December, Dom. The guy that should be disbarred attorney and right-wing talk radio host, Dan O'Donnell.
Well, Crudy, in that regard, if we digress for a moment, since you brought up Daniel J. O'Donnell, whose wisbar.org attorney information shows him at Clear Channel Milwaukee in Greenfield, Wisconsin, says that his license status is suspended CLE, and their definition here is that this lawyer's license is suspended for failing to comply with the reporting requirement for continuing legal education and may not practice law in Wisconsin. Any lawyer under this suspension may petition the Supreme Court of Bar Examiners for a license reinstatement.
So he's not an attorney licensed to practice here in the state of Wisconsin, at least not currently, because O'Donnell didn't do his continuing ed.
Got to do the continuing ed, man.
Just to be able to claim the title, you think Dan would do the 16 hours per biennium or whatever is required? Know what I mean? Just to check the box. So if you hear him say he's an attorney, just think, well, so is Rudy Giuliani. Technically, they got the law school degree.
And they both kind of agree on, the circumstances of the 2020 election.
So
they're very much alike, Dan O'Donnell and Rudy Giuliani.
Attorney at law, suspended attorney at law, and that could be either one as a descriptor, Dom, either Dan O'Donnell, suspended attorney at law, or Rudy Giuliani, suspended attorney at law. I think I'm going to call him that from now on. Clan O'Donnell, that's got a nice ring to it, but suspended attorney at law, Dan O'Donnell, I think I'm going to stick with that one for a while.
All right, back to the Robin Voss piece in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel by Molly Beck and Patrick Marley. Apparently he's paid out already $20,000 for this investigation into the illegalities. And they're going to go through the leads, folks. So if you got any leads, make sure you let Robin Voss know. Mark Spreitzer, a Democrat from Beloit, said this will only embolden conspiracy theorists and help extremists spread their lies. Rep. Janelle Brangen, the chairwoman of the Assembly Election Committee, told a conservative radio show host Thursday she would like to review voting machines as part of the review of the 2020 election.
I wonder what righty-whitey product she went on. I wonder if she joined suspended former attorney at law Dan O'Donnell's show.
Nope, it was a different show, Crudy. We have to be able to look at the machines. We have to be able to look at the ballots, and we have to look at the voting list to make sure we don't have people abusing a list that hasn't been cleared before elections, the Menominee Falls Republican said on the regular Joe show. Lawmakers will likely have a tough time getting the machines because they are owned by municipalities, and election clerks must follow strict policies limiting who has access to them. Well, don't tell that to Arizona. Brangen was one of 4 Assembly Republicans who traveled to Phoenix this month to observe a partisan recount ordered by the Republicans in the Arizona Senate that included the seizure of Maricopa County's voting machines. You know she wants to go there. Katie Hobbs, the Arizona's Democratic Secretary of State, has said those machines will have to be replaced at taxpayer expense because the private company overseeing the ballot review has not adequately documented the chain of custody of the machine. Brangen's committee ostensibly is helping oversee Wisconsin's election investigation, but Brangen said on the radio she doesn't know who Voss is hiring to supervise the investigators. Andrew Hitt, chairman of the state Republican Party, told the host of the show that he knows the attorney and the Republicans will be pleased when they learn who it is. Brangen said she
Rick
spoke
Essenberg,
the involved investigation on Wednesday. They're still working on a plan for how to conduct the investigation. I think they've had a slow start, she said. What is this, the Republicans with their friggin' plans for a plan?
Well, Dominic, perhaps the plan that, Andrew Hitt, the guy that lost $2.3 million of the Republicans' money right before the election, although they've clawed a little back through their insurance carriers.
And the bank.
Maybe he knows that the investigatory supervisor, the attorney, will be the suspended right-wing radio host who lost his law license for failing to do his continuing ed and testifier at the earlier voting irregularities hearing, Dan O'Donnell, your buddy.
Wow. So here we go. The tab is now running, taxpayer dollars getting spent to facilitate the investigation into the big lie, let alone, we've had these recounts in the state of Wisconsin already. Remember that? Milwaukee, Madison, right?
You're looking at this all wrong, Don. Actually, let me tell you about the net savings to the taxpayers. Since the Republicans' attorneys that are there, preemptively for the gerrymandering, the appeals court said, I believe it was yesterday, that Republicans still can't hire those attorneys. Well, Don, that's a $30,000 a month savings to the taxpayers of the state of Wisconsin, just in retainers. Let's not forget they had already contemplated spending $1 million or more to gerrymander in a very partisan fashion the maps of the state of Wisconsin for the benefit of, the Republican Party, primarily, one must assume, because they're the partisans in charge. You're not going to do anything for Tony Evers's party. But anyways, Dom, since we're saving $30,000 a month, let's turn around and spend $30,000 or more on former police detective / partisans and perhaps a supervisory attorney, maybe someone from right-wing talk radio.
Or perhaps from Will. And
the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty.
The Republicans who traveled to Phoenix this month, right? That trip was paid for by a group run by a person who used to work in the Trump administration, who is a journalist, quote unquote, at OAN. OAN, the news network that apparently is called for the execution of people.
Well, only if you don't believe that Donald Trump won the election. Then, and only then, should your execution be contemplated, Tom, according to the OAN anchor. That wasn't a guess. That was one of the anchors.
That was the anchor?
I know that I chagrined you a little bit when I called you out publicly for wishing Rush Limbaugh a happy trip to hell when he passed. But at least you haven't called for the execution of any live listeners or even those that might not choose to listen to this fine program, Dom, Although I could see why you might have that sentiment.
Wisconsin's delegation's trip was funded by Voices and Votes, a group headed by Christina Bobb and Chanel Rian of One America's News Network. Yes. Christina Bobb. Was that the one who called for the...
No,
Okay.
not the one calling for executions of those that don't believe. I actually found that through an Adam Kinzinger tweet, but anyways, I'm gonna have to look harder for that.
Well, the OAN, if you pull it up here, the Arizona azcentral.com, traitors should be executed, OAN personality says. It's been bad enough for Senate President Karen Fann's unbiased independent auditors have teamed up with a fringe media outlet that has led the charge in the conspiracy theories, whose reporter, Christina Bobb, is a former Trump administration official, now raising money to help finance the investigation.
Dominic, this show started by talking about the disbarment of Rudy Giuliani, at least the suspension of his practice of law in New York. And part of it was the lying. But why the lying, Dom? It's not entirely for the support of Donald Trump. It is for the enrichment of the candidates or the organizations that would make these false claims and the attorneys on their behalf. So when people are saying they stole the election and then they solicit your money on that misinformation, think former President Donald Trump, who raised $250 million for legal fees to help stop the steal, right? Or at least that's what he claimed.
Yes.
Although, if you read the fine print, much of the money is not going to the legal fees.
Well, I mean, that's why they call it the fine print.
And that's why Rudy Giuliani has every right to claim he wasn't the lawyer of Donald Trump. That's what he claimed in the courts through his divorce proceedings, or at least he was the unpaid attorney of Donald J. Trump because A, he didn't want to share the income with his ex-wife, and B, the new boss, that guy doesn't pay anybody. I mean, think about that. Losing your law license, lying on behalf of a client who refuses to pay you. There's loyalty for you, folks.
Yeah, but look at the exposure, and who could put a price on fame?
Indeed. Come back with us. We're nearly famous. Devil's Advocates radio show. Some say nearly priceless.
I'd give away all my fame for just a little bit of fortune.
844-967-2789. I just wish it could be both.
I have never been more excited about anything that I have gotten the chance to work on. We have seen a small increase in deaths, which is a good thing.
I'm glad you did.
Lynn, it's time for a rebrand. You sell the highest quality electric bikes made by the best manufacturers from around the world, but I think it's time to retire the crazy.
I don't know. Crazy Lenny's my thing.
Selling fine machines to discerning consumers is your thing.
No more big discounts? No more truckload sales?
I was thinking exclusive membership and tea time rides. Maybe call it Leonard's Easy Riding Electronic Bikes.
Let's just say I'm suspicious. I'll get back to you.
Crazy Lenny's e-bikes, Odana Road.
Hi, this is Gordy from Kopke's Greenhouse near Oregon, Wisconsin. For over 35 years, gardeners have been coming out to our farm for their vegetables and flowering plants. We invite you to escape from the city and enjoy the beauty of Mother Nature's bounty. You can get our hours and directions from our website, kopkesgreenhouse.com. That's Kopkes greenhouse.com. From all the families that rely on your support, we say thank you.
Hey, crazy e-bike Lenny, why do you advertise on Devil Radio?
Greed. It gives me a great return on my advertising investment. Maybe the best of all the other radio stations. Customers come in, they're intimate. They say, I heard you on Devil's Advocate. And that means when you're as greedy as Crazy Lenny's e-bikes is, you buy more commercials and more come in and more commercials.
You'd be crazy not to advertise your goods or services on Devil Radio.
I can't do it. I got to be me. I've got to be Crazy Lenny.
No exclusive e-bike membership clubs?
No way. E-bikes are for everyone. They're fun to ride, so you ride your e-bike more and longer, so e-bikes promote great health.
But these are high-end machines. You can't sell them to just anyone.
I always have. We carry the best e-bikes in the world, and we have e-bikes for everyone. Hundreds of e-bikes.
You don't have to be crazy to sell e-bikes, but it helps. Crazy Lenny's e-bikes, Odana Road.
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Well, turn it up, man.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, you can hit us up right now at 844-967-2789. Curdy, this comment made on OAN. I found the actual quote. Now, Republican Rep Adam Kinzinger tweeted out his disdain for the comment. I want to share it in its full entirety here for you. Just a couple of paragraphs, if you would bear with me. OAN's Pearson Sharp. This is what Pearson had to say. How many people were involved in these efforts to undermine the election? He asked in a segment first aired on Tuesday. Hundreds? Thousands? Tens of thousands? How many people does it take to carry out a coup against the presidency? And when all the dust settles from the audit in Arizona and the potential audits in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Wisconsin, what happens to all these people who are responsible for overthrowing the election? What are the consequences for traitors who meddled with our sacred democratic process and tried to steal power by taking away the voices of the American people? What happens to them? Well, in the past, America had a very good solution for dealing with such traitors: execution.
The tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of tyrants, right, Tom?
Execution. I mean, I'm not sure that, coming with the, the phrasing of the solution, like a final solution, is really, Pearson, the terminology you want to be using. But okay, let's just take this as it is, and certainly something we're
going to take it for literal.
Let's go there now. And I would say, well, Pearson, do you know the name Paul Manafort, Konstantin Kilimnik, right? Donald Trump? I mean, wasn't there people messing with our sacred democratic process and trying to steal the power away from the voices of the American people?
No collusion, no collusion.
Collusion, conspiracy, yes, collusion, yes, conspiracy. Sir, are you then advocating for the execution of the former president of the United States? I think he is, or she.
Dominic, if we take the OAN guy, the cue ball, literally, and considering he, from his point of view, is talking about what? All of those that upheld the election of Joe Biden, right? They're the coup d'etaters in this guy's opinion. But as the truth that you and I both know, and I hope everyone listening in our audience, Trump might have actually lost that election. So those that would, hope to overturn that outcome, if we are to take him literally, well, what's the suitable punishment, Tom? Execution.
Kill them all. Apparently, Pearson tried to walk back his comments on Thursday, telling Talking Points memo.
Walk those back.
He was simply explaining the potential legal ramifications for traitors. Neither I or OAN are suggesting anyone should be executed, Sharp told Talking Points memo. That is for the appropriate law enforcement agencies to determine.
I thought you were going to say that's for Twitter.
Yeah, right. The QAnon Nation apparently is loving it, according to AZ Central, the Daily Beast, Will Somner, monitoring QAnon's websites, posted a clip from Sharp's diatribe. And the nation of sane people, meanwhile, should be questioning just what is it that Fan has unleashed upon America. Of course, this is the Arizona Senate president. She alone is responsible for ordering an election audit despite absolutely no evidence of a problem here. She alone is responsible for turning Arizona into a laughingstock and for giving hope to Trump that he's going to be reinstated. I thought that was Lindell gave Trump the hope.
Oh, Mike Lindell, he's going to be the organizer of the inauguration parade 2021, or so he claimed earlier today.
I'm not going unless it's a military parade, Crudy. I mean, we were at Trump's inauguration, and there was nobody in the parade. It was terrible.
Well, there were some Antifa people out, breaking glass. Dominic, know what we should do this weekend?
What?
We should perhaps take up this solicitation I've received and join President Donald Trump at his Ohio rally. He's leaving Mar-a-Lago. He's leaving the golf course. He's going back on the road, Tom, in person. And you're not going to want to miss this, the solicitation says, because they've got 2 VIP tickets just for me. Just for me. Although they do warn me, don't share this offer with others.
Little old me.
Dominic, President Trump will be holding a massive rally in Ohio Saturday. I don't know why Saturday is all caps. And we want to
Sunday was taken.
We want to give you 2 front row, all caps, tickets with the VIP concierge to escort you around this historic, all caps event.
Exclamation point.
Yeah, a lot of those. The best part, question
is yet to come.
You, all caps, will get to meet President Trump himself. Oh, I know you've been so honored, Don, but the pedestrian, the people, we.
Yeah, I mean, I've already met the man, Crudy.
Like
I'll let you go do this one.
The best is yet to come.
Dominic, all we need to do is to contribute any amount by midnight tonight, and we'll be automatically entered to win. That's it. It's really that simple.
Contribute to whom?
Well, of course, to the Donald J. Trump Super PAC. Here's the warning, though. This offer is exclusive, all caps, to our most loyal supporters, guys like me. Please do not share this offer with anyone else.
Wait.
Keep it down.
I take it all back.
So I've actually got a pending member ID number, and my status shows as pending till midnight tonight. Then I turn into a pumpkin, Dom, and they've got several suggested contribution amounts, but any amount acceptable. And here's what it says. If you are selected as our lucky winner, you'll not need to worry about anything. We'll cover your flight on Trump Air and hotel at Trump Hotels.
Yeah.
So what are you waiting for? Don't miss this once in a lifetime opportunity! Exclamation point.
I will pay for the legal fees, I promise.
I'll contribute any amount right now. If that part's all caps, I'm just tired of shouting it at the people, to automatically be entered for your chance to win 2 VIP tickets to meet President Trump at his rally Saturday. Thank you, the Republican National Committee headquarters, the RNC.
The RNC.
And there's quite a disclaimer. This one, unlike the prior Trump solicitations, if you give us money, maybe you'll get to meet the big guy. There are plenty of, or that are, 10 times match.
Or if you don't give us money, Donald Trump will be very disappointed in you. Don't make me tell Donald that you're not contributing money.
The ones that I found quite troubling, give money now. We know where you live. Thank you to our fine guest, James Santelle. Thank you all for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Now keep it locked right here at Devil Radio 92.7. Earl Ingram's next. And then Native Roots Radio. Thanks for listening.
I never said there was no collusion between the campaign.
I've been hearing that crap ever since I was at UCLA.
Let's have trial by combat.
Tell your old man to drag Walton and Lanier up and down the court for 48 minutes.
I did what I came to do. Exclamation point.
What has happened?